welcome to the Everyday Board Game Podcast with your host, Daniel.
And Daniel.
Daniel. I'm excited.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and you, when we were thinking about this list, we're like, oh, I'm sure we've played enough of these, but I don't know if it's worth it or not. I'll tell you why I'm excited this episode. We always talk on the podcast about Spiel Des Jahres winners, and I know I'm butchering the way I'm saying that, but that's how we say it here in New Mexico. Spiel Des Jahres.
Spiel Des Jahres.
Spiel Des Jahres. But it doesn't matter. It's the German Game of the Year is what it is. And this has been going on since the late 70s, 1979. And every year they've been giving a new Game of the Year. In fact, on our way to the Gamma Expo this year, we listened to a whole book talking about it. Now, you and our friend Dan and Dom were asleep during most of it, but I listened to the whole thing while I was driving, and I quite like it.
I had to sleep, thank you very much. I was very tired.
Oh, sure. But
Spiel Des Jahres, yeah.
Yeah, the Spiel Des Jahres. The German game from Mexico. Yeah. But why don't you tell them what it is?
The Spiel Des Jahres is the game of the year. It's one of the most prestigious awards in board games, in card games, and it's awarded annually by a jury of German critics.
All right. So this is critics they have reviewers, and they have people in the board gaming industry, but they also have article writers and all this stuff.
So it's video reviewers, articles, newspapers, people that are just in the business in general.
Right. And they specifically don't specify. This is one thing that I was thinking about the other day, is what makes that new award in the United States different than the Spiel des Jahres, right?
The American one we talked
Yeah,
about?
the American one we talked about. And they have the categories, they're best family game, best strategy game, best heavy game, stuff like this. And they have a few more categories. And this is literally, it doesn't say family game. It's kind of perceived that way, but it's just simply game of the year.
Yeah.
They do, and they've never clarified it more than that.
Other than with their other two awards, the Kenner and the Kinder.
Yeah, they have the connoisseurs and the kids game.
Yeah.
And so that's why it kind of implies that this is the family game of the year.
Yeah.
But that's still kind of a misnomer at the same time, right?
And even then, they didn't really make a distinction because the Kenner only started in 2011.
Right, exactly. So they couldn't really clarify that. Now they've gotten a little lighter on their games now that they have the Kenner. And I appreciate that they have the extra awards and stuff. It really does highlight cool games. But I mean, the classic pawn that they have on there, the red pawn, I think they call a pawn a purple, so they call it a red purple, which is kind of weird. I remember that in the book. I was like, a red purple, what is that? What?
Yeah.
That threw me off a lot. But that was just, every time I saw that was kind of the ongoing, hey, wait, I've seen that logo before. I've seen that. What does this mean? And I started noticing it, and that's when I really got into the awards.
And the thing about it is, we've been wanting to do that. You've been wanting to do this for 5 years, since we started this podcast.
That's right.
But I hadn't played enough of the Spiel des Jahres games. And now I did the list here, and we have about, I want to say at least 26 of the Spiel des Jahres winners written to play. Mainly because of this guy. He owns every single
one. I own all of them. Yeah, I purposefully bought every single one of them because I wanted to try these games. And some of them have been hits, some of them have been misses. I fully expected that.
Cafe International.
I mean, the game itself was good. Yeah. Very questionable.
It was
graphic design
fine.
choices.
I wouldn't even say good. It was fine.
Yeah, it had a cool. It had
an interesting mechanism what they was trying to do, but.
Yeah.
Honestly, out of all those games, the one that I dislike the most that I'm not going to talk about, and it might be on your list, is, of course, Keltis, because I just don't like Lost Cities, and I don't like Lost Cities, the board game, which is what Keltis is.
Right, effectively.
Effectively, yeah.
Yep.
The one I disliked the most out of this one was, outside Perudo, which is Liar's Dice, which has been around for years.
Yeah.
What was the one I was trying to think of? It was I saw it. I'm gonna butcher this name. That's Kenner, by the way, and I like that game. I just shouldn't have won the Kenner. It's Auf Asches, the truck driving one.
We haven't played it yet.
I played it. You played it over one time. I thought we played it. You brought it out.
I brought it. I've never been able to play it
because we saw the thing, and that's right. Because everybody at the table were just like, it's a pick up and deliver. We played it.
We played a different pick up and deliver.
Let me check this because I thought I saw it in my stats.
No, because you have to time like when the trucks get to certain spots, and it's kind of like a truck version of Monopoly. It's really weird how it works.
AUF.
Yeah, we've never played Alfoxe.
Now, Foxe, that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, Alfoxe.
I got it mixed up with something else. I only care for Kinner anyways. I like my games crunchy.
Let me see your list, and I'll tell you which one it was that we played. If you wrote it down, because you might have put that on.
I might have mixed it up with that.
All right, go ahead and talk about, and then you didn't like Elfenland.
I could not stand that game.
That one. You sure that's not the one you?
No, because I remember it was a pick up and deliver game that I didn't like. There's one game in here that I'm going to talk about. It's on my honorable mention because I actually enjoyed it, and you're probably going to be surprised about that one.
I don't think I'll be too surprised.
I know, riveting. But yeah,
riveting.
No, but I remember it was a pick up and deliver I did not like.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, I think it might have been just some other random German titled.
It might have been
similar to it because I haven't played Alfoxe yet. But if it is my pick this week, I mean,
you could bring it over, but sure.
Yeah. No, so I've played almost all of them, but I'm very happy with the fact that that was my goal, is to buy all of them, and now every year I have to buy a new game.
And sometimes you try to jump on it and be like,
I know. As soon as they announce the nominees, I try to buy all 3 nominees just so that way I have them at the ready if they're in the United States yet. And unfortunately, I couldn't do that this last year. I had to get it later on in Christmas time. I got Dorf Romantic.
You're welcome, by the way.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
So, quick caveat. The reason why we're filming this now is in June. We're filming it in May, but it's going to drop in June.
Yep.
Because by then, or relatively soon, the new nominations are going to be announced. So, be on the lookout for that. We don't know what they are yet. We have an inkling what we think they're going to be if they're in German. So.
Right. I did find out the dates on that. I was going to say this for the news episode.
Oh.
But the Spiel des Jahres nominees will be announced on June 11th.
Told you it was in June. You didn't want to listen
to me. June 11th, and then July 13th they will announce the winners.
It's funny. You were arguing with me last week about this, and I'm like, no, they always happen around June.
See, I always thought it was like late May.
No, I was like, no, they announce it in June, and then the awards in July. That's why we're doing the Spiel this year. And spoiler alert, next month is the Kinner.
Yep, that's right. Spoiler alert, like it matters that much. Right? We're announcing it now. We're going to do the follow-up. So, so now you have the dates.
So there you go. In about a month, we're going to be discussing the Kinner Spiels.
I've had to translate many German pages to figure this out. But not only that, they actually announced the next 2 years' worth. Like what days that they're going to announce it.
It's usually it's June, because they always give it a month. So they announce it in June, the nominees, with the recommendations, and then July they announce the winner.
Yep.
I remember, because in 2020, you and me were watching the German announcement.
Yeah, we were watching the live translation. It's like, we have no idea what they're talking about, but when they get really excited all of a sudden, and people are cheering, and then they open up a box of Dorf Romantic. Oh, okay. You can probably figure out what that is. All right, well, let's get into this. But before we do, Daniel, what have you been playing lately?
All right, the first thing I want to talk about is a game that we've mentioned before, and we've played a bit before. I want to give it another shout out because we finally got it to the table again because our buddy really wanted to play it and he wanted to play his specific copy of it. And this was Emerson Matsuuchi elegant game, Foundations of Rome.
Very fun.
I do enjoy this game a lot. Again, I'm along the lines like you are. I don't have the shelf space for those big a box. I would love if I had like infinite room where I could have a whole giant room to hold board games, like some people collect cars and they have a giant garage for everything.
Right.
If I could do that with board games, I would own this in my collection, hands down.
Yeah.
I enjoy the mess out of this game. It's too big for what it is, and so I'm looking forward to the new one, Foundations of Metropolis, which should be dropping sometime later this year.
Hopefully.
No, the Arcane Wonder says it's dropping this year.
Sure. Hopefully.
We were talking to them.
Right. Again, in the world of board gaming, you see it when you believe it when you see it. Yeah.
No, but they said it should come out around Gen Con, in between Gen Con, Essen. That is their plan because the next one they want to release, and they already got reviews up for the next one, is the expansion for World Wonders. So, Foundations of Metropolis should be dropping around Gen Con time. I really do like this game, and for some reason, I can gronk this game like you wouldn't believe. Both times I've won this game, I've won it handily. both times I played it, I've won the game handily. And so, I don't know what it is. I could do like simple pattern building and okay, I'm going to take this space, I'm going to put this there, and then I'm going to put all these together. It worked really well. I had a good time playing this one. I concentrated on getting like my points buildings out rather than getting getting money for one thing,
Mm-hmm.
and also getting the money buildings also just give you points at the end of the round. And I'm like, you know what? As long as I got one population on the board, I'm good because I'm going to score whoever's above me. And you guys were fighting over the population track there's no tomorrow. I'm like,
No.
I'm going to score whoever is in second to last place. So I'm going to get points off of that. I'm just going to make sure I have my population here, and I'm just going to concentrate on getting my money. And the way I had my part of it set up, I had my stuff that gives me point multipliers by coins, whether it's my coins or everybody else's coins in that area. And I'm like, boom. I think two of my things over there gave me, both of them were like 20 points each. And it's just like, he's running away with it. I'm like, you guys let me.
Yep.
So I do like this one a lot. Foundations of Rome, fantastic game. Look for Foundations of Metropolis if you don't want something that big, but still give that fun feel.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate this game. But again, I'm not going to buy it because for the same reason you did. It's just that it was overproduced. That's one of the very few games I will say is overproduced. And it really is. Beautiful production.
It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's fun to look at.
Should not be a $150 game.
That game is about the size of my Frosthaven box right here, where Frosthaven gives you the kitchen sink and everything.
Yeah.
Whereas that one is a very simple, I spend money to get something, or I place something on the board.
Yep. That's it. Right?
You're
it's not a
basically
100 scenario epic campaign.
Yeah. I'm playing bingo at this point.
Yeah. Pretty much. The first game I want to talk about is one of my new favorite stupid games. Like, it's just so dumb. And I bought this. I was pretty excited about it. It's called Dropolter, and it's an Oink game. And
oh yeah, you did show us this one, yeah.
Yeah, I showed it to you briefly, and the idea is pretty simple. It is a dexterity game from Oink. I think it's called like Ghost versus Palm Muscle. Like, I think that's like the translation, or I don't know why, but that's what it says on the back. And the idea is what you're trying to do is you have 5 items in your hand. You have like a little plastic seashell, a nice plastic cube that's called a gem, a weird wooden punch-out thing that's called a cookie. That looks kind of like a weird grid thing. You also have a little plastic ring, and you have one more item I'm forgetting off the top of my head. And what you're supposed to do is you flip over a card, and it will show you anywhere from 1 to 4 of those items from your hand. Mm-hmm. And only using that one hand, like you mix them up first, and while using the one hand, you have to drop exactly those items onto the table. So if it says like the ring and the gem, I have to drop the ring and the gem only without dropping any of the others. If I accidentally drop one of the others, that's fine. Take my hand, put it back in my hand, but I have to restart. Okay, that makes sense. You know, you're not using both hands, but it takes extra time. And the first player to do it correctly grabs the ghost, and the first person to grab a ghost gets a point. Simple, right? Mm-hmm. Standard dexterity. Here's the catch that makes it absolutely absurd and over the top. Your points are these little bells, right? They're little tiny like jingle bells, right? And that's how you keep track of it. First to 5 points wins. But that bell goes into your hand with the other items. And you have to hold those and manipulate with them the whole time. And they're tiny little suckers. They will fall out at any moment's notice. And if you drop them out of your hand, it's not like the items. You don't put them back. You lose the points. So multiple times we were having like rounds like, all right, drop the ring, drop the
as he drops his clipboard.
Right, clipboard drop, yep. Clipboard drop, drop the ring, drop the oh no, I lost a point, ha ha ha. And then you see like everyone like panicking as like bells are flying everywhere, and it's the best kind of stupid in the game, and it works really well. And it's a dexterity game with a catch-up mechanism, which is unheard of, right? I mean, It's very rare that you get something that works that well. And the fact that you have these bells of different material, metal bells, plastic things, wooden pieces, and they're all sticking in the same hand, they stick to your palm in different ways. So it's harder to maneuver a certain thing. Oh, a little wooden key. That's what the last item is. This is my new favorite stupid game. I've already played it a few times with a few different groups, and we just absolutely love it. It's Dropolter Oink Games.
Nice. All right, so the last game I'm going to talk about is we were kind of talking about it before we started the podcast,
Yep.
and I'm going to try to not give any spoilers in this one. But the one we did, and speaking of Spiel Des Jahres winners, I got to play and start the first two scenarios of Ticket to Ride Legacy Legends of the West. And again, as the title refers, it's a legacy game by Rob Daviau, Matt Leacock, and Alan Moon, which is shocking. All three of those are working together. But my thing is, like, I would expect Rob Daviau and Alan Moon, and then Rob Daviau and Matt Leacock work together on Pandemic. Like, all three of them working on this, I'm like, okay, hold on. Let's see how it's going. Like I said, I've played the first two scenarios. I've liked how this works. I love some of the subtle changes that they made in the game so far. I love some of the interesting stuff that they're adding to the game that you don't really see in the base game. I find it really intriguing. But at its core, it's Ticket to Ride. And it's funny because I was telling the wife, I'm like, I'm kind of glad we're doing this because I have not played Ticket to Ride in a long while. And I enjoy the mess out of that game. It's such a fun little simple game to play. But a lot of the rules are kind of the same with little changes here and there. You collect cards, you claim routes, or gain tickets. Same core mechanisms, but oh my god, so far it's really, really fun. Really, really quick too. Like the first two scenarios took us an hour and a half to play. We just played them back to back. It was really quick. I want to see where this goes. Honestly, I've been kind of like getting torn on Legacy sometimes because sometimes they're really good and sometimes they're not. Like I really like Pandemic Season 1. One of my favorites is Betrayal, Legacy Betrayal. I thought that one was fantastic. But some of the like Pandemic Season 2, I've only played a little bit on it and I'm like, it's okay, but it's not really grasping me like say Pandemic Season 1 was. But this one, I just like it. I like the story that it's being told. I love some of the subtle changes. I love how easy it is to just get everything cleaned up because the little card box that it gives you for all the stuff is like your tickets go here, this thing goes here, your train cards go here and stuff like that. And I also like the fact that it's like, don't worry about these things right now. And I'm like, but I'm going to have to worry about them later on? Hold on. Because there's like little subtle things in there. And then so there's certain things that I've received and I'm like, this doesn't make sense, but this might make sense later on. And so there's little cool stuff and you are doing what legacies do best. There are stuff that go out of the game based on stuff that you're doing. So it's kind of intriguing. I like this a lot. I really want to see where this goes.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting about it? To add on more to you, we are halfway, I think, through the campaign right now. We're on like game 5 or 6.
Okay. And that's another thing. In the rulebook, it straight out tells you you're going to be playing about 12 games. Like straight through, it's 12 games. And what I like about it that they took from Betrayal Legacy is that they have the years for you. And so you know for a fact. So if someone drops out and they miss that year, that's fine. You can still keep playing. It recommends playing with the same group, but if someone just can't make it, it's okay.
But there are rules in case somebody doesn't.
And I like that.
Which is pretty cool. But yeah, so I've been playing and we're about halfway. One thing that I really appreciate about this game is that our mutual friend Jim, he wasn't the biggest fan of Ticket to Ride in general. Like he would play it and he would tolerate it and be like, And he said that nothing ever clicked with him while playing it. But now he won 2 of like the first 3 games. I think I won the first one and he won the second 2. And he was like, okay, all right, I see I finally get it now. Like what this is about. And something finally clicked and he's been doing much better now. But yeah, we'll see how it ends up being. I'm curious to see how it ends and how you think it ends.
Yeah, exactly. I'm liking where it's going right now. Like I said, our whole plan on my next game night with this group, because we're going to get together next week, but it's going to be a while before we can get together again. At least 3 or 4 weeks just because of the busyness. And so I'm like, all right, our whole thing next week is we're going to play like campaign stuff. And that was one of the first ones my wife asked, like, can we do this one as well? And I'm like, yeah, no, sure. Yeah, we enjoy the mess out of this game. Though it's funny when I was talking about it with our mutual friend, Gamehead Geek, he's like, you want to play Ticket to Ride with your wife? Because every time we play a game of Ticket to Ride with my wife, she crushes us. I'll have you know I crushed her in the first scenario, and then I got my butt handed to me in the second scenario.
That's right. Let's go. Show him how it's boss. That's awesome. All right, the last game I want to talk about today is a game that you and I both own, but I got to the table recently just because it was in that mystery box that we bought. And
oh, yeah. I saw this one, yeah.
Yep, I got this to the table. It's called Turia.
How was it?
Well, so it's from, just real quick, it's from Mark and Ninkus Brand and Michael Reineck.
Yeah.
Yeah, the co-designer on Merlin right there with Stefan Feld. And I just recently bought another game of his that is only technically licensed in the United States, very specifically. I got a card game that basically translates to Palace Whispers, but Google licensed it and made it a Google-themed card game.
Okay.
Which broke my brain when I saw that at a thrift store. I was like, oh, we want to give a thanks to Michael Reineck for designing such... I was like, wait, what? Like, I thought it was a deck of cards.
Okay, who cares about that? What about Turia?
Anyway, no, Turia. The Land of the Dancing Towers is what it's called. And what this game is you have 4 towers, each with the 4 sides with different actions on them. You have one collective group piece token that is your pawn for everyone. Everyone has the same pawn. And you move it around this land fulfilling the actions. And what happens is, what makes it interesting is that the 4 towers that are facing you, those are the 4 actions you can take on just the sides that are facing you. So you and me would be on opposite sides of the table, or like on like a diagonal or whatever. The 4 sides that I see are different than the ones you see, right? Yeah. And when I pick the action, I do the action, then I rotate it counterclockwise by 90 degrees. So that changes the next player's turns. It's not just like the action's going to follow the next player. You do it opposite of turn order. And what you're ultimately trying to do is you're trying to marry either the prince or princess. And the way it works is you have to have 7 hearts by doing heroic acts. You have to get 7 gold because you have to pay the king to be a worthy... Like,
you got to pay a dowry.
Yeah, you have to pay a wealthy dowry, and so you have to pay.
Which is weird because you don't really have to pay him for a male. So, for the prince,
that king is just shiesty. That's all.
It sounds about.
And it kind of like plays into that idea. It's like it's like only like no penny grubbing like peasants will be like like that kind of attitude. It was pretty cool. And you have to have 0 cursed gems, which are ways that you might get cursed gems or ways to get rid of them. It played in about an hour.
Okay.
We played it 3 players, and I really enjoyed this game.
Nice.
I was really impressed by the action selection. And it's not just like every spot on the board is a different action, and if you happen to be going through mines at the same time, you pick up gems from them. But if there's a cursed gem, you have to take a cursed gem with it, which kind of is a bummer. But each of these actions do different things. There's one that lets you get magical items. There's one that lets you get rid of a cursed gem. There's ones that'll let you like compete in a tournament. There's ones that'll let you warp to other spots, like the wizard one, but it costs money to go to.
Yeah.
There's ones that like you're trading those gems for money, or slaying a dragon, and you have to give them the certain item that's rolled kind of randomly. But that also gives you bonuses for the trader action. There's a lot of cool like give and take in how it works. But there's one part at the end that personally I know a lot of people would very much dislike.
Okay.
But I was totally fine with it. It worked for me. And there are 9 doors amongst the castle. And the prince and princess are hidden behind one of those doors. The other 8 are all different things like swords, gold coin, different colored gems, stuff like that, right? Okay. Elixirs, whatever. And on your turn, at the beginning of your turn, if you've collected those items, the 7 gold coins, the 7 hearts, and you've proven that you have no cursed gems, you put your crest on it, you have left the party, and now you are just in the castle. So at the beginning of your turn, you flip over a door that remains face up at all times. If it is the prince or princess, you win. Done. If it's anything else, which likely it will be, if you have that item, like let's say it comes up with a blue gem, I could discard the blue gem and then flip another door on my turn. But if you don't have the item, let's say I flip over a sword and I don't have it, well then my turn's just over, and good luck for me, I'm just going to have to try again next turn. It works really well.
I mean, that sounds interesting, yeah.
It works very well. Now, a lot of people, Yeah, you could have one player go in there and do all the work and flip over 8 doors, and then another player just come in like,
Hey, that one.
hey, the only door that's not open. I get that. That'll probably annoy some people. Cool, fine, whatever. I don't play games with you anyway.
Yeah.
But I liked it because it added that like nice thematic climax to it. It was exciting. I thought it was just hilarious. Like, I mean, you edge your bets against it, right?
Yeah,
like, I purposely waited a round or two just to get a couple more gems and a couple things before I went in there, even though I already had what I needed to. That was the risk I took.
Okay.
But yeah, and somebody else beat me to it, which is totally fine. That was my timing. Oh well, c'est la vie. I liked it a lot though. I think you're gonna like it a lot when you play it.
Cool.
Yeah, and I'll be happy to teach it to you next time you want to learn it.
I'm looking forward to it. It's the one out of all the mystery boxes was the one that intrigued me the most.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do want to get it played.
That was my second most intriguing. Getaway Driver was my most intriguing.
Okay,
I was really excited.
I had 2 copies of Getaway Driver. I gave both away.
Yep, I know. I knew you weren't gonna play it.
Well, no, I'd be willing to play it. It's just it won't get played. And then the only other person, the only person I would play a 2-player game with is usually you when you bring it over.
Right.
So, what's the point of me owning it if I know it's not gonna get played?
Right. No, I get it. I get it. I was saying like that's the one that I'm most excited about because I love that theme. But yeah, Toria was already really awesome. So that's 2 out of the 6 mystery games that I've played. One of them was outstanding.
Nice.
All right, now we're going to get into today's episode. Spiel Des Jahres. We're finally doing a top 8 debate for the Spiel winners. And now this is as of 2024, and they have not announced the winner for 2024 yet.
As of recording.
As of recording. So, we want to be clear on that. This is years 1979 through 2003. Those are the Spiel. 2023.
I'm like, no, we did more.
Yeah, a few years after that, right? 2023 that we're going to be doing. But before we do that, we have a couple of honorable mentions that we wanted to talk about.
Nothing on the audience side.
Nothing that our viewers have added on, but
yeah.
I mean, these top 8 are really top 8.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk real quick about our honorable mentions that we picked.
Sounds good to me. What was it, me?
Yep.
Okay, I didn't see you flip the coin. That's why I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear it.
Yep, I'm playing a poker chip today.
All right, so the first honorable mention I'm going to talk about is a game that you and me both were kind of not in love with, and I've actually learned to love this game a lot more now. Specifically because they put an IP on it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I've played
I
this.
still am not in love with this game. This is one of my least favorite.
And this is Dixit. And the reason why I say I've fallen in love with it is because the way Dixit works is you basically have a group of cards and you give a clue, trying to get some people to pick your clue without everybody getting your clue.
Yep.
With the original Dixit, for me, it was a little too open-ended. With Disney Dixit, which is the one I've been preferring and playing, it helps you streamline it a little bit. So you could do something like a Pixar film, or you can give a clue based on Toy Story or something like that. Where one of the clues is someone put a new life or something like that, and so they played a Wall-E card of the tree, the growing out of the boot, and so I put out the from the movie Dinosaur where the lemurs, the egg is hatching and they're adopting the dinosaur and stuff like that, and so it really kind of helps you, and the art is amazing as well. This is probably one of the most beautiful games out there, just base game or on the Disney side, because of the art is amazing. But yeah, it's a little party game where you're trying to give clues, but not too good of clues to get yourself points. The first person to hit 30 points wins the game. Fantastic game. I, for the longest time, have been kind of hemming and hawing on it. I liked it, but it wasn't that great. Playing it more now because it's a nice little simpler. I pretty much play it as like a filler or a cool down game after you play like those big, heavy, grandiose games. One time we played it right after we played Role Player Adventures. It was just a nice thing where we don't have to, get too heavy and thinking and stuff like that. So I highly recommend if you're playing like some of those heavier games and you still want to play something with a little meat on the bones, but don't want to go too heavy or think too hard, Dixit is the way to go. And so this was for sure one of my honorable mentions.
Okay. My first honorable mention is a game that I can only imagine will be on your list later because we've already discussed it. And that's Turn-In Taxis.
Oh, I thought you were taking this off your list.
I thought about it, but I was like, you know what? No, it really needs to shine, and I'm looking forward to when you talk about it. Turning Taxis, yeah, it's a game about the German postal system. A super exciting theme. But despite how exciting the theme is,
not only the German postal service, the classic German.
Yes. Even worse. I mean, they've never made a
horse and carriage.
Horse and carriage, yeah, the buggy system. No, it's a really great game though. It's about laying your cards in either before or after your line, trying to make the best route amongst them. You can claim any regions that you have or have not taken already. It works really well.
You can also buy someone to give you special abilities.
Yeah, you get some special abilities. You get some extra bonus actions on your turn. It's very simple idea. I wish that they made an American version of it. And I don't know why they haven't.
All right.
Honestly, Turning Taxis was absolutely incredible of a game.
For my second honorable mention was Turning Taxis.
Yep.
So
it's so good.
I totally agree with you. I love everything about it. So, if you were a fan of Ticket to Ride, but you find it a little too easy and you want something the next step with that route building aspect, if you can find a copy of this, try this out because it gives you that next level. It's not simple by any means. There's a lot of rules to it, but you're building your routes. You're trying to build it as fast as you can to get to certain points. Yep. You're trying to be as efficient as possible. You also have a bidding process, if I remember correctly. I can't think of, I don't know if it's bidding or something like that, where you can get special powers by hiring special individuals that help you out. There is a slight catch-up mechanic in there, too, to make it easier for people who are behind in the scoring.
Yep.
I love everything about this game other than the way it looks, I guess you could say, because
it ain't pretty.
From those days, it was a pretty S game, but if we mentioned it all the time with, the Alea games from back in the day.
Yeah.
It's brown. It is a lot of brown in this game. And at points, it was very difficult for me to see because there's a lot of browns and greens, which is a struggle for me. But no, it is so fun. I do enjoy this game. Like I said, there is a lot going on. And we were talking about this because last game night, my pick was Castles of Burgundy Special Edition because I wanted to play this new one. And Awakened Realms knocked that out of the park. And you and me, our friend Gamehead Geek, was asking, what game do you think should get that kind of treatment? And you and me just couldn't figure out what we were... Our buddy came up with, and he took him a while, too. He recently came up with Alhambra.
Yep.
And now you and me, when we're going through this list, we're like, Turns and Taxis.
Yes.
That deserves this.
Yes, it really does.
Yeah.
That game is one of those gems that I don't think enough people have experienced because it's just such an obscure thing. I don't think it's ever been printed in the United States.
Not that I know of.
I think there was an English version in the UK maybe, but not over here.
No.
And that's a shame because it's really just fantastic.
Oh, it's
I'm
amazing.
sure even if they put a fantasy theme on it or something, if they want to Americanize it or whatever, I don't know.
Give it to Thunderworks. They'll put it in the Donavulos.
Right, exactly. Throw it in Donavulos. There you go. All right, my next honorable mention is a game, speaking of maps in the United States. This is a game, it's not really a map. It's more of a grid. This is Manhattan. And what you're trying to do in Manhattan is you have 6 different boroughs, and it's a 3x3 grid for each of those.
Dark Kin?
No, this is Alex Pfister.
Is it Pfister? I don't think
It is. Yeah, which is surprising because he did not win the award for Puerto Rico, but he did win it for Manhattan.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and you don't believe me, I know, but I'll accept your apology in a moment. But yeah, Manhattan.
I just didn't know he was around that long.
Yeah, he has. Yeah. Seafarth!
You're wrong! Wait. I want your apology right now.
I apologize, but you are still wrong too, sir. Seafarth did Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I'm like that. Yeah. No, Pfister has not been around.
Pfister didn't do Puerto Rico. That's right. Anyway, it was another Andreas. Either way, no, this game.
Another Andreas?
Yeah. Yep.
It's Alexander.
Yeah, I said it's another Andreas. I know what I said. Whatever. You're just in a correcting mood today, sir. Anyway, so the way this game works is super not thematic, but what you're trying to do is you're trying to build towers on one of these 6 grids. You play a card which will have a position of the map, so it'll either be the center square or the top middle or the top left or bottom right or whatever, right? And it'll just have it on there. However, your perspective of the grid is determined by where you're sitting on the board. So if I'm looking at the board upright, then my upright spot will be the upright space from my perspective. But if you're sitting across the board from me, that's the bottom left for you. Yeah, it was an A name. Same designer, right? And so you and me could play the same card, but we'd put our towers in totally different spots. And it might matter because of that. And when you're putting your tower pieces, you have anywhere from like 1 to 4 floors that you can put, and the piece you have to put on top of it has to make it now at least equal to or higher than the number of floors another player has had. You continue going at the end of every round after you play, I think, 6 cards. It's been a while. Then you score. Whoever has, you get 1 point per tower that you control, which is whoever's on top. Then you have 2 points for whoever has the majority in each of the 6 sections, and you get 3 points for whoever has the tallest tower. Simple. Do that 3 times, you're done. Most points wins. Except you can also add a kaiju monster like variants into it.
Of course you could.
And which is actually pretty hilarious because what you do is you play your card like normal, but you have a single piece that's going amongst the burrows. And like, let's say I play a card with a dot on the upper right, it will move in that direction. And if it happens to go into a spot with a tower, it just destroys the tower entirely. It's a pretty wild variant and absolutely fun, actually, at the same time.
Here's my thing about these Spiel Des Jahres games.
Uh-huh.
If I had a nickel for every kaiju monster they put into an expansion in these games...
That's a fan made.
I know, but I'm saying, I would have 2 nickels. Which is not a lot, but it's strange that it's happened twice, because you got the Dexter one from Ticket to Ride.
Yes. Yeah, the alien and dinosaur.
Dinosaur is like... What the heck are you guys doing?
Yeah. I know, and actually one of those, I forget which one it is, I think it's the dinosaur, actually destroys routes, like, as it's going. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about right.
I was like, oh, do you guys just want things destroyed over in Germany?
Apparently.
Alright.
Apparently.
So, for my last honorable mention, I think this one's going to shock you a little bit that I've put this on my list.
Number 3 may shock you.
Just for the simple fact that I don't think you thought I'd like this as much as I did. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun little racing game that never came out in English. And it's better than a racing game that we are going to be talking about in a couple weeks. And this is Reifenbreit.
Oh, wow. I thought you were going to say 80 Days. Around the world.
I do like that one, but I want to talk about something.
You liked Reifenbreit.
I like the way that one works. I love the little push and pull, like how you played the cards out, and then you have those little kind of take-thatty cards, but not really that take-thatty cards. And I love the copy you had, that you had to stick little, or there was little notes inside of it.
I had a German copy, yeah.
Because it was a German copy. Because it's only in German. I don't think there's ever been an English version of this game.
Yep.
I liked it. It's kind of based on like the Tour de France or like bike racing in general. You're going uphill or downhill and you speed up when you're going downhill. I like that little aspect of it. I love the card plays. You got to play it smart. Be like, I'm going to do this because I got this turn coming up and I don't want to go too fast on this turn or else I'm going to cause a pile up. And so, yeah, I liked everything about this game, what it did. It's just one of those games where I'm like, you know what, I'm glad you own this because it's not going to go down well with my other group. For one thing, it's very German, and so I can't translate everything. Unlike you were able to get translations for your cards.
Right.
Or I don't know if you did it or it came in your copy.
No, it was Board Game Geek printout.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a fantastic game. It's fun to play. I really did enjoy that racing aspect, and I won. That probably does help my liking for it.
Sure.
But no, I liked what it did because it kind of gives you that little bit of feel that you get in like Downforce or like Formula D when you're rolling your dice and you're trying to, switch your gears and stuff like that. Yeah. But it does it in such a smarter way than Formula D does it, where you're having to push and pull your speed and stuff like that smartly. I think the other game that does the speed and the balancing system that I like a lot is Snowtails, where you're trying to, like, if you got to get into the turn, you want to make your dogs uneven for you can do the pull the right way. I like how that kind of works in Reifenbreit too. So, like, when you're doing that turn, you're not going so fast and cause a pile up and you're not going into the wall. And you got to make sure where you're at on the track, because, like, if you do go too fast, hey, I started this turn on the inside, now I can swing into the outside. I like a lot of that stuff. And I like the drafting mechanism in this game, too, where you can draft behind someone as you're going.
Yeah, somebody right in front of you does a really good roll. Like, all right, I rolled an 11, I'm clear.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm just going to draft
behind you, yeah.
I don't need to roll for that.
Exactly. I'm going to just follow right
It's
behind
a really smart system.
I like it a lot, and so yeah, Reifenbright is my last honorable mention.
Cool. Last one, you probably saw this one coming. There's a lot I could choose from, but I had to choose an older one just because I really got to bring this over. Like, I think you guys are gonna think it's wild. This is Hoity Toity, or
I figured this was gonna be in here.
the German title Adel Wipperflichtet.
This is Dorn.
I don't know off the top of my head. It is Richard Garfield for all I don't know.
I think it's Rüdiger Dorn because I think it's it's Klaus Teuber.
Klaus Teuber.
Yeah, it's Klaus Teuber.
Is it?
Yeah. Because
I don't think it is. I might be wrong. Because he did a few others, but I don't think this might be one of his actually. Yeah.
Misspelled Hoity, I guess.
There's no E. All right, but yeah. So Hoity Toity, the way this game works is quite simple. You're all art dealers. You're basically just trying to get certain sets of cards. That's basically it. Oh yeah, you were right. So you know more about Spiel than I do. Well done.
I just know designers better than you do, apparently.
Yeah, Klaus Teuber. Yeah, the way this game works is really simple. You're all like uptight, snobby art dealers trying to get the best things, best points. And you can hire thieves to steal other people's paintings out from under them. You can try and buy it for having the best price. It's just absolutely hilarious. I disagree with your comment, but the way it works is simple. You have either the museum or the dealer's room. Everyone, at the beginning of every round, they all choose which one they're going to go for. They all reveal. And only the people in the dealer's room deals with them, and people going to the museum, which is how you actually move along the track, which also determines what kind of art you deal with. It's the victory point track, effectively. That's, you will only deal with those people. And so you and me, like, if you and me were both trying to buy art, whoever bids the highest dollar amount will buy the art piece, and then that's theirs, and they'll get a certain number of points for it.
Okay.
However, if somebody instead throws down, I don't know, a thief, instead of doing that, they're going to instead steal the art, or not the art piece, but the money that was normally would be discarded. They steal the thief, or the money card from that player for use in the future.
Okay.
Unless the player who was playing the thief didn't know that they were going to instead throw down like the sheriff to catch the thief that was hired, and thus sending him to prison, which has extra long time that gets stuck out until enough people go to prison, and you get a bonus by catching a thief by doing it. It's the wildest, weirdest thing. And it works. It works so well. I cannot describe how strange it is, but it works incredibly well.
You're not doing a good job.
I am not. I mean, like when I first read the rules, I was like, okay, this sounds weird. And then I saw a review on it, and the guy was like, you need to understand how good this game is. It is so good.
Nice.
It doesn't have a right being as good as it is. This, honestly, I mean, Klaus Teuber did this, Catan, and one other game that won the Spiel. It's the Dodals is what the new name, but Barbarossa.
Yeah, Barbarossa, I was going to say.
And so he won the Spiel 3 times, and honestly, this is my favorite.
He's the one that's won it the most, right?
No, Kramer I think has.
I think Kramer has like 2 or 3. Actually, I could pull that list up real quick.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Kramer. But either way, I mean, it's not far ahead, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, they're... I'm surprised the Kramer game didn't go on your list.
Because we'll be debating them later with our list right here.
Ah, okay.
But yeah, Idle Wipperflichtet or Hoity Toity. Love this game. So good. Check it out. Whenever you get a chance. It's so good.
Yeah, so the way we do the top 8 debates, which we're about to get into,
yep.
We take the top 8 games that we have both played. It specifically has to be that we both played because we need to make great arguments.
Yep, exactly. So we picked the top 8 highest ranked. We're going to each make an argument for each one. We're going to be breaking down these 8, or not breaking down, we're going to be debating these 8, starting with our number 1 seed, Cascadia.
Versus our number 8 seed, Ticket to Ride.
Our number 2 seed, Azul.
Going up against our 7 seed, Carcassonne.
Our number 3 seed, El Grande.
Going up against our number 6 seed, Just One.
And our number 4 seed, Dominion.
Facing the number 5 seed, Codenames.
Each round, one of us will flip, or I'll flip the coin of doom. Daniel will be pulling from the cup of doom. That player will debate first. We'll break it down into 5 different criterias and see which one moves on based on our criteria. Those criteria are ease of play, which is the simplicity and familiarity of the mechanisms, likelihood to get to the table, whether that's mechanism or theme, and how easy it is to learn, understand, and or teach.
The next criteria is replay value. With the length and time and scaling well, is the 2-player game as good and as long as a 4-player game? Minimum number of plays of full experience. We talk about it more on if you play it once, abstract strategy game, you know how to play it. Or is it something like a campaign, like Ticket to Ride Legacy we were mentioning earlier, where it's guaranteeing you 12 games before you see everything. And the expandability. Is there already already existing expansions, up to 1 possible future expansions, or expansions that are confirmed by the designer or publisher?
And then next is meaningful choice. How does your gameplay impact the other players' strategies and or tactics? What is the depth of your personal tactics, strategies, or skills? And finally, do arbitrary choices or analysis paralysis negatively impact the gameplay?
Our 4th criteria is game immersion. Is the game fun to lose? Does it involve a lot of player interaction, whether it's table talk or role playing? As well as what gives you those memorable moments that make you stand up and shout?
And finally, we have art and production, the art, graphic design, and the pieces and components.
And finally, if we cannot come to a consensus, it's very important that you follow us on the Board Game Revolution page on Facebook. We always put a poll every time we're going to do a top 8 debate. You will decide the tiebreaker.
All right. So without going into it, we're going to go into our very first round. That is Cascadia versus Ticket to Ride. Daniel, are you ready for this?
I do have to make mention that we have to eliminate 2 games because both our wives voted in the poll. Last time I gave you grief about your wife voting in the poll and skewing the poll results.
That's
now
true.
It's both of ours.
I appreciate that the wives are really stepping it up now. Now, real quick, let's see. Wolfgang Kramer, who has won?
I know they're more down here.
Yeah,
So,
there's quite a few. Oh, I forgot Sid Saxon has won one.
There's 2 for Kramer. There's 2 for
Foxay,
Toiber.
Yep.
3 for Toiber.
Yep. Oh yeah, that's right. He got Wacky
he's
Wacky
got
West.
4.
Yeah, he has 4.
And Kramer has 4.
El Grande, yep. Kramer. No, he has 5.
He's got 5.
Kramer.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, but Klaus doing it all by himself.
Sure. All right. Let's get into this first round. Cascadia versus Ticket to Ride. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. That'll start off with you, sir.
All right, and I get Cascadia. Kind of interesting because, like, the Spiel Des Jahres, the top 8 that we got out of here, are phenomenal games. And I don't think there's a single one other... Well, I take that back. There's 2 that I like less than everything else. Luckily enough, they're going up against each other, so...
Make the debate easy.
Yeah. But this one is hard. Because I do like Ticket to Ride. I find it a fantastic game. We were just talking about how much I do enjoy it. I just need to play it more.
Yep.
But, man, when it comes to just overall what I like, Cascadia just hits on so many other levels. It's just like, it's very simple. It's very quick. You draft some tiles, you place them in your personal pool, you also get an animal, and you can pay an acorn to not draft both at the same time, or both in the same area. Because the way you draft it, you have 4 tiles or 5, it depends on the player count, in front of you, and you choose 1 animal and 1 tile. However, if you spend an acorn, I could choose a tile and choose an animal that's not together. So I could choose, out of 1 through 4, I can choose the 4th tile and the first animal if I spend my acorn. If I don't spend an acorn, if I choose the 4th tile, I have to choose the 4th animal. Very simple. You put it in your personal thing. You're trying to make like good landscapes because you're going to get bonus points at the end of the game for like the longest one. Whoever has the longest of land, or the longest of forest, or the longest of sea. So you'll get like these bonus. And then you're going to be able to put your animals, and the animals will have their own scoring system. So like red-tailed hawks want to see each other, but they don't want to be next to each other. Deer want to be grouped together. Fox want to be kind of like in a little triangle surrounding something. So they all have their own individual scoring. It's very abstract, so the theme really doesn't come out of this game all that much. It's cute, great art, Beth Sobel. So when we go down to the ease of play, very simple game. likelihood to get to the table. My wife has actually asked me to bring it a couple times to our other game nights, so that says something. It's easy to teach, understand, and stuff like that. It's just a little bit more complicated than, say, something like Ticket to Ride, just for the simple fact of the change in variation of the scoring. Because of all the way the animals score.
Right.
The red-tailed hawk in one game can score this way. If you randomize the cards and play with a different card, it's going to score in a different way. That's it. That's the only thing you're going to have to grunt, because sometimes when people play it, they're like, hey, I remember the hawk scoring this. I'm like, yeah, but that's not the card we're playing.
Right.
That happens, and you have to make sure you explain that every time you play, that these will change depending on what's going on. The replay value is there. It does change a little bit, and there is one expansion for it, Landmarks.
Yep.
Smart, meaningful choices in this one. It has some of the best meaningful choice out of the Spiel Des Jahres stuff that we have here. I like what you have to do to decide, because the acorns that you're using are also points for you at the end of the game. So you have to use to decide when you want to either spend a point to switch it up to possibly give yourself more points and stuff like that. So that's really good. Again, going back to the game immersion, it's very not thematic per se. It's very abstracted in a sense. You could put like any theme on this and it would work fine. But the art and production, AEG and Flat Out did a heck of a job on this, especially really paying Best Sobel for the art. I think Cascadia should move on, but Ticket to Ride is such a phenomenal game for a reason.
Okay. All right, so I have to argue for
Ticket to Ride.
Ticket to Ride. All right, so first off, these are all incredibly simple games to learn, and I feel like out of these 8, with the exception of one of them, there is only one that I would feel I could confidently say is more difficult than Cascadia. I'm not saying Cascadia is hard to learn. It's really not.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure you do. But out of all of these, Cascadia, with the exception of one other, is the hardest to learn, I feel.
No, I don't disagree with you.
No.
That's not saying much.
That's not saying much. Again, but as far as ease of play goes, I feel like there's just as many people that enjoy like old-timey railroads and rail lines and that whole history just as much as nature, right?
I mean, exactly.
It's Americana versus natural. You know, that's something that people are both like. So likelihood to get to the table because of each of those. I would call that little minor part a draw, but also Ticket to Ride is being sold pretty much everywhere, including Walmart. Cascadia is not.
Cascadia was being sold in Walmart.
Not in their stores.
Yeah, it was.
No, I've never once seen it.
Not in our Walmart, but it was, because you would see it all the time when it was going on clearance on the board game pages.
Well, it's still being sold Ticket to Ride.
Yeah, no, I'm just
is what I'm saying. So likelihood to get to the table, just functionally, that's probably the one. But I'm not going to count that. Simplicity, I think Ticket. And same with easy to understand, learn to teach. It's literally 3 rules. You do one of 3 things on your turn, that's it. Not saying that... I mean, really, you only do one thing on your turn with an option for Cascadia, but because of all the ways that they branch off, I would say easy to play goes to Ticket to Ride personally. Replay value, it scales up to 5 players. Some expansions have up to 6 players for Ticket to Ride.
I think is 4.
Yep, Cascadia is 2 to 4. Or 1 to 4, I think. I think there's a solo version. I don't remember.
I think the solo came in the expansion.
Yeah, but there's a bunch of expansions for Ticket to Ride. Like, it's not even comparable, and spin-offs, and all sorts of
there is,
and
depending
add-ons.
on which Ticket to Ride you're getting, there is one specific expansion for the U.S. version, the regular one, which is what we're arguing, or Ticket to Ride Europe. They have the so it's the 1910 and the 1912.
Sure.
That is the only expansion that is specific for their
sure
whatever which one you're doing, either Europe or America.
Yeah.
Everything else is you can add to either game.
Right, but that doesn't change the game.
No, I'm saying,
right.
but I'm saying there's only one specific for the brand. Outside of that, there is. They just announced new map packs.
Yeah,
right?
it's like 10
France,
map packs or something like that. Yeah. South Korea and
France.
And no, France was done before. Iberia.
Yeah, it's Iberia. Yeah. France
Iberia.
does something neat from what I was reading about, where it's you have to do something because it's not an unclaimed route or something like that.
Right.
You need a locomotive or something like that.
Sure.
An extra locomotive, I think is what it was.
So expandability and length of time, I feel, goes to Ticket to Ride. Although minimum number of plays because of those variable animals, sure, I'll give it to Cascadia. But replay value, I think, is Ticket to Ride as well. Game immersion, I mean, you do feel like you're building routes more than you do feel like you're like building habitats for animals.
Oh, you're going on the game immersion part?
Yeah, I'm jumping down to game immersion just because it's like, come on, like you really don't. There's nothing thematic about.
You know where I think
Cascadia.
Ticket to Ride wins game immersion?
Where
is the player interaction?
Yeah.
Because people start. I've seen almost divorces happen by this game.
Yeah, when you take over a route. Yeah. Yeah, and then also, like, there's one simple rule in it that at the end you count up your ticket points, but anything you didn't complete is negative. That adds a really cool tension to it. I do like that, yeah. That's a really smart mechanism. It's fun to lose. Both of them are fun to lose because you have your own little thing. But because of the fact that it's not playing in front of you like Cascadia, you're playing a multiplayer solitaire. Yeah, you could take what I wanted, but something will eventually come up. What I'm really playing in Ticket to Ride is everyone's fighting over that same land mass and that same territory. So, I mean, I gotta give it to Ticket to Ride without even going into meaningful choice or art production. That's my opinion. It gets ease of play, replay value, and game immersion on that alone.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can't disagree with you. I honestly think Cascadia should move on, but I can't argue Ticket to Ride. There is a reason why it's like one of the most popular selling games.
Yeah. I mean, I think what it did was kind of take two different ones. It took like Ticket to Ride Azul and Carcassonne. No, there's one other that I'm thinking of. It took like Ticket to Ride and Carcassonne and kind of combined it in together in a way, like the form versus the function on making Cascadia. In a way, it took a lot of what was really popular among Spiel winners, and it was kind of made it a shoo-in, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that means Ticket to Ride moves on, unless there's any other counterpoints.
No, I don't disagree. I personally would prefer, and it does help Danny on that one. The fact that it's also a name of a song from one of our favorite bands.
Did you ever see the story behind that though? When Days of Wonder was debating that name.
No, but we'll talk about it after the podcast because this is a longer episode.
All right, fair enough. But remind me to bring it up because it's pretty funny.
So, all right, number 8, Ticket to Ride moves on.
That's
number 1,
right.
Cascadia has been eliminated.
Headphone listeners, please cover your ears for a moment. There we go.
Hey, don't get us demonetized.
I'm just humming to myself, don't mind me. Alright, our next round is Azul versus Carcassonne.
Oh, this one's going to hurt you a little.
We
Ow, my
go.
ears.
Is that who said that?
Luminous.
Oh, ow, my ear. Yeah, this one's going to hurt me a lot, actually. You're starting us off.
I get Carcassonne.
I knew you would.
There's a reason why it's your favorite game of all time.
I mean, I'm going to tell you this right now. Azul is probably my number 2 on this list, although Dominion is right there with it.
Azul is probably back in for me. I do like
Dominion
Azul.
is probably right there.
Alright, so Carcassonne, one of the simplest games over there. You draw a tile, you place a tile where you can, and you decide if you want to drop a meeple. Real simple. Probably
if you've done a jigsaw puzzle, you kind of know how this works.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Very simple mechanism. Yep. Also, one of the games that really modernized board gaming, they created a whole thing that it's in our lexicon now, the meeple.
Yep.
And so it's a really easy, simplistic game. And they just put a co-op version on it. Yep. And here's a fun thing about Carcassonne, too. Azul has, 2 expansions? 3 if you want to count the overlay mosaic stuff.
It has 1 actual expansion, some Joker tiles, which you can use, some alternate art tiles, but then there's sequels.
Oh yeah, but they don't interact with each other.
They don't interact with each other.
Carcassonne is like I think the second or third most expansions on this outside of Ticket to Ride, and we just mentioned it, Dominion.
Yes.
Because I think it has 11 expansions if you want to include the new co-op, the Ghost expansion.
If you want to include those alternates, Carcassonne has about 20 expansions.
Well, but Mists of Carcassonne can actually be integrated into the game.
Right. Yes,
All those other
those things
standalone ones cannot.
Right.
A lot of the standalone ones.
Right, but there's the expandalone, right? There's also 10 full expansions. Plus, there's also the Wheel of Fortune, which is an expandalone. Plus, there's the 6 mini expansions.
He would know. He owns it all.
And they are considered expansions, the mini expansions, which in turn, those 6 mini expansions have a single tile for a 7th mini expansion known as the crop circles.
Like I said,
it's obscene how many. And then they got the map packs expansions now for Carcassonne.
Oh my god! Yeah, no.
This is the most expanded one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Dominion's right up there. Ticket to Ride is coming around the corner too. But yeah, it's up there on the expansions, and then you have the meaningful choice, and this can be very cutthroaty, especially if you're playing with some jerks over here, who basically king made because he kept messing with me throughout that entire game. But yeah, you got a lot of meaningful choice in this one. There's a lot of strategy and tactics in this. The game immersion, this is where I go in him and haw when it comes to this one, because I think, honestly, Carcassonne should move on, just because of freaking replay value by itself. It's not very immersive, but again, you don't feel like you're building a tiled wall in Azul. The tiles are nice, but I feel more like I'm doing a floor than I am doing a wall because I'm not doing it vertically. It's fine. Azul's fine. It's funny. It's one of my wife's least favorite games for the simple fact that she's like, once you figure out the pattern, it doesn't matter. And I'm like, yeah, but the drafting, it doesn't matter. Okay. And so I haven't played it in a while. I still play Carcassonne. We bust out the mist over Carcassonne all the time because my wife enjoys that game. The game immersion of this one, it lends to more immersion because, as I was mentioning, when you're playing with a jerk, it can lead to a lot of table talk. Usually it's cursing and cussing people out. In Carcassonne is fun to lose, even if you're dealing with some people. And which leads to memorable moments because we're still talking about those situations. And it's one of your favorite memorable moments, and I'll let you explain why it's one of your favorite memorable moments.
Which one?
No, the fact that I sold my copy of Carcassonne.
I don't like that at all. I feel sad and ashamed that you sold your copy.
But the art and production is phenomenal, and the newer versions of Carcassonne that you can pick up now, they're fantastic. I think Carcassonne should move on, but let's hear what you got to say about Azul.
Okay, so Azul would in art and production.
Oh, yeah.
It does.
It does. I'm not saying.
Sorry, Clemens Franz, but...
the new art is nice in the new versions.
Sure, yeah.
And
but Azul is just, like, that's bar none.
Honestly, I would say this. The art would win for Carcassonne. Everything else, like the pieces and components and the graphic design, would work better.
Yep, although pieces and components, it's got the meeple.
It's got the meeple.
It doesn't just have meeples. It invented meeples. So just throwing that out there. No, in game immersion, honestly, I would argue for that to be Azul, just because of the fact that, like, thematic-wise, I mean, you literally are laying down, like, decorative tile in a pattern. That is exactly what you're doing as that.
I'm not laying down tile. I'm laying down starbursts.
Well, yeah, they look like starbursts. They're a little thicker than normal tile. But that's literally what you're doing. You're tiling a pattern, and that's what you're doing in Azul. So, I mean, it doesn't get more thematic than that as far as true to what it's doing. I'm not saying it's an exciting theme by any sense of the term, but that definitely is more on theme than building up Carcassonne and all these weird little suburbs or whatever you want to call them. And so I would give game immersion to Azul because of that alone. However, meaningful choice, again, here's the tricky part of it. I do wholeheartedly disagree with your wife. I apologize if you're listening, but I don't think Azul is solvable, like, once you understand the pattern. And I still offer my challenge that if she wants to back up that claim, I will gladly play against her and probably destroy her. Sorry. If you think I'm wrong, if you can figure out the pattern, this theoretical pattern, then accept my challenge and I'll destroy you. And then accept your defeat. And I'll accept my apology after. Anyway, no, but...
You've already made my wife cry in the game once. If you do it again, you're not walking out of this house.
I know, right? Not alive, no. I'll be out in the box. But replay value, I mean, Carcassonne has it, right? Without a doubt. Like, it's not even close. Azul just, like, it just can't even... yeah, we'll
explain that a little bit later. Yeah.
But ease of play, yeah, it's got to go to Carcassonne. It's tricky, right?
Yeah.
These are both very simple. They're both very replayable. They're both immersive to the same level degree, and they both have a strong, meaningful choice. I would actually give meaningful choice to Azul, actually. Because if I'm getting a bunch of town stuff and I'm able to put my meeples on towns and you get nothing but roads, then you're half as many points as I do throughout the whole game, right? Now, there are more of those tiles, but again, that's beholden to what you draw randomly. So, Azul tiles, you don't have a random other than initial setup, and then you can mitigate accordingly. So, I would give, personally, art and production and meaningful choice to Azul. Everything else is Carcassonne, and I agree with you, Carcassonne should move on.
All right. Well, I was like, we could break this down, but...
Nope, that's just how I would do it. I do agree with you, though. And I think that's where...
in all honesty...
I did my best to take my bias out of it.
I like Azul a lot. Yeah. I think it's a fine game. I kind of agree with my wife to a certain extent. It is boring. After you play it enough, it's too abstracted. It really is.
For some people, yeah.
Yeah, for some people.
Right.
Those who don't like abstract strategy games,
yeah,
I'd be hesitant to, say, hey, try this one out. Because it's just like a next step abstract strategy game. The only thing is the pieces aren't black and white.
I mean, I've had very good success showing it to people. Now, they always give me that same apprehensive look. They're like, you're laying tile. That's the game, huh? And then they play and like, oh, because it's that drafting that really
the drafting's really cool. That's the only thing that takes it to that next step. Right. But it's just it can be boring after a while. It's not one of those games that I want to play over and over again. Like, I haven't played this in 2 years, maybe 3. Actually,
do you own Azul?
No, and I've never owned Azul. My wife doesn't like it. I'm not going to keep that game in the house. Yep. There's few games that I'll keep in the house that she doesn't like because I can play with my other game group. That is not one. Yeah. Especially since most of you guys have it anyways. And 2, I haven't played it since I want to say like before the pandemic, 2019, and honestly, I don't miss it. I think the last time I played it is when I played the giant version of it at Dice Tower West, which was 2019.
Yeah. Fair enough. All right, so Carcassonne moves on. Let's go into El Grande versus Just One. And I know which one you're already aiming for, but you'll be starting us off.
I want to also make mention, and what I find interesting, is our number 1 and our number 2 on our boards both got eliminated. I think this is the first time our number 1 and 2s got eliminated.
So far, yeah.
All right,
maybe it'll be a full Dark Horse episode. We'll see.
We have El Grande versus Just One. I'm starting again? Or you?
You are.
I get Just One. Nice.
Of course.
Good, because El Grande is the one I know the least about, because it's been so long since we played it. Though I do want to pick up that new version of El Grande. It looks really nice.
It looks really good.
But Just One, I'm going to try to take my bias out of this one as much as I can. Just One is in my top 100 games of all time. Mm-hmm. This is the game that actually let me still game during the pandemic, so it has a special place in my heart. Out of these 2 games, there is one thing that always stands out for me. Just One, by far, wins ease of play.
Yes. Yeah.
By far wins ease of play. Because El Grande, we played a 2 version player of it, and it took us a little while to get through that rule book. But other than that, Just One, very simple game. You're basically having a deck of cards. You're just trying to go through a certain deck of cards. As a co-op, as a group, you're trying to get through 13 cards. One person has to make the decision what it is. Everybody else is clue givers. They'll take a card, they'll pick a number 1 through 5, and then everybody else has to give a 1-word clue to that. So if it's, say, toast, you have to give something like bread or rye or stuff like that. And it's very simplistic that it seems, but it's so much fun. So you get really into that game immersion of things as well. Because what's going to happen is everybody's going to give that 1-word clue, and then they're all going to show each other the clue. And if they gave the same clue, those words are eliminated. And so by doing that, it becomes a much more harder game. And then the person who's getting the clues looking at like, why am I only seeing one word? What happened? Yep. Well, we all got a little too specific, so you lost it. Yep. So you're sitting there like, I'm going to pass. And that's the beauty about this game is that you can choose to pass and lose that card.
Yep.
Because if you guess wrong, you lose that card. And if you have games or stuff in your scoring pile, you lose one of those cards. If you don't, you lose an additional card off the top of the deck. So basically, you're trying to beat 13 or like 7 because it's like 13 cards or something like that. So you want to get at least 7 of those to win the game in a sense. And it goes very quick. So it's a very quick game. It plays 1 through 6, I believe. So it scales pretty well and it plays pretty quickly.
3 to 7.
Is it 3? Yeah, it's 3 to 7. Yeah.
Yep.
Minimum number of plays for the full experience. It's a large stack of cards, and there's 5 different mechanisms on those cards. So there's a lot of variability for something so simple on this one. There's one expansion, hasn't come to America. So there's that. When you got your meaningful choice, there's a bit of strategy and tactics. I think that's El Grande hands down.
Yep.
But the game immersion, fantastic. The art and production, it's either here nor there. So for me, I would give it, because honestly, I don't know if El Grande has expansions. It's been that long. I think it has 1 or 2 maybe, but I can't even tell. I think it wins 3 out of the 5. Just 1, and should move on. Now let's see what you got to say.
It should just win just 1. Let's be real. No, I don't disagree with what you're saying. Art and production I would give to El Grande, just because the pieces are pretty nice. The map is okay. The giant pawn is awesome. The El Grande, that is just absolutely awesome. It's like half a foot tall. I'm exaggerating, actually. It's really only a couple inches, but it's a massive pawn.
My question is, though, are we arguing the one that won the Spiel, or are we arguing the new one? Because that new one is beautiful. That old one is kind of Kalis style.
I'm arguing even the old one, because I had the big old pawn.
Oh, yeah, the pawn is great, yeah.
The one that I have, right? The big box. No, I mean, and the tower where you're throwing your extra pieces in. What ultimately in El Grande, what you're trying to do is you're trying to have an area control game where each of the cards tells you how many characters you can do and what kind of action you can take, which also will let you sometimes move the El Grande around, which you cannot score regions that he's in, or I think, I might be wrong, but adjacent to, or it scores the one that he's in or adjacent to.
I know for a fact it's the one he's in. I don't know about the adjacency stuff.
Yeah, it's something to that effect. But you're moving him around, and that's mainly what you're trying to trigger to score. But then afterwards, certain meeples might even go into the little tower, which might actually get seeded on the board later on, which is kind of neat. Just the situation on like how you're choosing which action you take versus which direction he's going versus where you're putting your majority of power, who already has what. There's a lot to consider. It's a really cool game. We enjoyed our time playing it. And the art production is actually really nice for being like one of those older games. But again, like personally, I'm meaningful choice, art and production. Those are the two. Game immersion is the one that trips me up because, I mean, regardless of replay value, it's just one scales brilliantly and it's easy to play. Game immersion. Thematic, you're actually vying for control over Iberia. That's what you're doing, and it feels pretty strong, right? And there's not really a theme in Just One. But what Just One does that excels over everything else is that it uses that name to great effect that almost none of these others do. Just One is not only just a simple title, it is effectively what you're doing in all steps of that game. You give a one-word clue. There can only be one of each clue. One player is taking the clue, and trying to guess what it is.
And it's only a one-word answer.
It's only a one-word answer, right? There's Just One. It's up there. But I mean, I don't mean to try and put this as a shameless plug, but matches is not just about matches. It's a theming that we tied in the mechanism. You're matching. That's the point, right? And that's what I'm trying. And we put a lot of effort into the fact that is what that's tied into.
Every Just podcast he brings up his game.
No, I know. I'm sorry, but you get what I'm saying though. Just One really does emphasize the fact that when you say the term just one, you now know how half the game works. So I would actually agree with you and say just one moves on.
Okay, and so just to clarify, game immersion, which is the more fun game to lose?
Just one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because of those moments.
The player interaction, which is the one that you think does the better on the player interaction. We're not talking about like, hey, I'm fighting with you for area control over here. It's more along the actual player interaction where we're talking, we're table talking, we're role playing. Which one?
El Grande.
El Grande does that better?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, memorable moments.
Just one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Agreed.
I disagree with you on the player interaction, just because I played so much more of Just One. I have a little bit more thoughts on the player interaction, because it's more along the lines is like, if you're the person that has to get the clue, and all of a sudden you hear the groans on the other side of the table.
No. The best part about Just One is when you're seeing a 4-player game, and everyone's like, all right, we can pair our words, and they all flip down. Good luck. And then the one person is like, what? And everyone picks the same word. Like, I've seen that more often than not. And I think that's brilliant when that happens.
I played a 7-player game. I think it's 7, right? 6. I played the full contingency, and I've seen it where one person gets one clue. The clue giver gets one clue, because all of a sudden, and that's why I said mentioning the groan, because you're sitting there like, okay, what's gonna happen? And all you hear all of a sudden is, oh, I'm like, oh my god, what happened? Hopefully I get at least something. And you look at the table, and there's just one facing you.
Was that during the lockdowns, or like, when was that?
It was just after the lockdowns. I took Just One over for the first party that we went to, and we were playing a full... In fact, I think it was like 8 or 9 players, because you could, as long as you got whiteboards, you could play with more players. Sure. And there was only one answer out of that big group, and it's just because all of a sudden you hear that groan.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty hilarious. No, I agree. I think Just One should move on.
Our top 3 have just been eliminated.
Yep.
All right. That just tells us Just One moves on, and it's going to be going up against Carcassonne.
Mm-hmm. All right. Our next one will be our number 4 seed, Dominion, versus our number 5 seed, Codenames. And then you'll be starting us off. Let me change the board around.
All right.
Realize I've been slacking a little bit.
All right. I am going through the Cup of Doom here. Mixing it up, and well, the first one I saw, because I grabbed both of them, I saw Dominion, so I get to argue Dominion.
Okay.
So, for me personally, this is my least favorite bracket.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with both of these games. I think the big part of it for me with Dominion, I've already played other trick-taking games before I went back and played Dominion. Or not trick-taking, deck building.
Yeah.
I played a lot more deck building games before I went back to Dominion, so I can see where everything took from, but it just doesn't intrigue me. The theme's not really there for me, that kind of situation. I can see why it is a beloved game. Mm-hmm. In fact, it is by far one of the simplest games on this list because of what it does. It's very simple. You have your set of cards. You're either buying cards or you're buying points. Here's a group that you're from the market that you're buying. It's not a river market, so it's what, 5 stacks?
So there's 10 different stacks, yeah.
So it's 10 stacks. That's what I'm saying. It's not a river. It's 10 stacks. So one stack is all of one card. So if you want to go there, the other stack's all of one other card, and you push and pull as you're going through. You can play with a thief. You can play with just something that gives you coins. You can play with something that's going to give you victory points later in the game. So you have like your nobles and stuff like that. It is a fantastic game, and I understand why people like it. Yeah, and Lumina says it. It is the grandfather of deck building. I'm just not a fan of it because I got into other deck building games before I went back to this one. But it's very easy. When you say, hey, out of these 2 games, Codenames is very simplistic, but when you say hey, it's a deck building game, anybody who's been into modern gaming for a while know it. Even if they've never played Dominion. This is a deck building game. This is really the one that started the deck building game. They're probably going to be very familiar with that, especially if they're relatively new, because deck building tends to be one of the first mechanisms that get taught to people.
Yeah, because if you're one of the few people that stumbled upon our podcast, you probably know deck building by now.
Yeah. The likelihood to get to the table, because it's a deck building game, it's possible. Is it easy to learn, understand, or teach? Yes. Just straight up yes. It's very simplistic for what it is. and we talked about it when we were talking about during Carcassonne. This is by far one of the most expanded games on this list. I think there's now
second most.
13.
They just announced the 16th expansion.
16, sorry. You would know, again, just like Carcassonne.
And it's Japanese theme, Rising Sun.
You have pretty much everything for it, so...
I do have everything for it,
yeah. You don't have the Rising Sun one yet, do you?
It's not out yet.
Exactly, so you don't have it.
No. Shenanigans, sir. That does not count. You can't claim I have everything that's published, yes.
They just announced it, but yeah, the replay value... Length of time is scaling well. It does really well for its player count, which is, I think, 2 to 4, or is it 2 to 6?
For
Dominion.
Dominion 2 to 4, but if you have you have Intrigue, then it's 2 to 6.
I knew it went up to 6. I just didn't remember if it was an expansion or it's out of the base.
Well, you have to have both base sets.
Okay.
To have it.
So when we go into the meaningful choice, this is by far one of the most games that give you a lot of choice, but you have to be smart of how you get those choices. Mm-hmm. Because I decided, you know what, screw it, I'm going to play the thief. I got my butt handed to me when I did that. Because though I played the thief very well, I just couldn't get the cards that I needed out of your hand.
Right.
And I tried to steal from your wife too. She was very good about blocking me.
Oh yeah. Yeah, she'll destroy you. Watch out for her.
Yeah. Now, is it the most immersive game? No, but neither is Codenames, really, when it comes to, like, if you're trying to match the theme or something like that. Both are okay to lose. I think I prefer losing Codenames a little bit more. When it comes to the art and production, this is where I think it hurts itself, but I think it still wins because Codenames, we're just arguing the base game, we're not doing pictures, doesn't have that good of art. It's just letters, just like Just One.
Yeah.
The pieces and components.
You have like the innocent bystander tokens.
Yeah.
That have like the woman going, hey, and the guy going, ooh.
And then you have like your red cards and stuff like that you're putting on the board, like or the grid, like yes, no type thing. Yep. It's there. So honestly, I think it wins about 3. It moves on. I think Dominion is probably the higher seed that's finally going to move on, but let's hear what you got to say about Codenames.
Okay. I agree with Illuminous bringing up that 4 players is the best for Dominion. It absolutely is. I 100% agree with that. 2 and 3 do work pretty well, but 6, yeah, it can outside its welcome. So I don't really normally count it as that. Okay. But yeah, some of those. I mean, I agree with you with what you're saying. Like replay value, that has to go to Dominion. It's just like, without a doubt, right? I mean, yeah, it's a little bit longer, but really, that's not saying Codenames is short, though. It can be a long game, especially if you have one person who's really getting hit with like analysis paralysis, which really takes people out of it. Mm-hmm. You know, you have, and going on, I'm going to branch this on to meaningful choice. You have the linchpin in Codenames is that the one person, like if they're the clue giver and they're just spacing, it's like, how do I combine hairbrush with swamp or whatever? It's like, and they sit there for like 10 minutes, like thinking about like, how am I going to do this? And they finally give up. They're like, the barber, right? And it's like, I'm just going to go with the one, right? And you are forced to almost play it too cautiously, mm-hmm. because while I think in game immersion, the stand-up moment is the assassin tile. I think that's brilliant, an absolutely wonderful one that they put that in there. It also makes it incredibly difficult for the clue giver to do it. And so it's hard to say that tactics, skill, and strategy have anything to do with Codenames because it's more tactical in a bit, but because you can't strategize what really to an effect, right? Mm-hmm. You are given limited information. You're trying to communicate the most information with that limits on it. That's more of a skill than anything. But I mean, hands down, Dominion beats in all 3 of those: strategy, tactics, and skills. Knowing when you can do what. So meaningful choice, Dominion, hands down. Replay value, Dominion. Game immersion, neither of them are immersive. But you know, some of the cards do feel like that. Like Thief, you're stealing mm-hmm. treasures from somebody, right? The prosperity expansion adds platinum to it, which is just a higher value coins. Wow, that's cool. Even on the base set, you have a village. Sure, you gotta do more actions because there's more opportunities there. Okay, like they have a little nod to their theme, and while it's not super thematic, I give you that. Art and production. The art in Dominion is wholeheartedly known as trash. A lot of the first edition, people just think that, and that's fair. The second edition, they've really fixed a lot of it. I get it. But the cardstock is really high quality.
Yeah,
it's really good, and the graphic design is very functional.
Here's my thing with Dominion, and it's nothing a knock to it here. It's two other deck building companies. Dominion knows what it is. It knows it's a deck building game.
Yep.
So they know there's going to be a lot of shuffling, so they made sure to put all their money really into the cardstock.
Right.
Come on, why can't other deck builders do that? Case in point, we love Summer Camp. We think it's a great game. I know Buffalo Games want to keep the cost down. Fine. As much as the art is nice in that game, give us better cardstock, drop the art a little bit.
Yep.
Because it's going to be a lot of shuffling.
Yes. Yep.
Because you're not keeping the cost down because I got to go buy sleeves to protect the cards.
Right. And Dominion has Euro-sized cards, which are a little thinner. They're almost akin to like a bridge-sized American cards.
Yeah.
And those handle really well shuffling. That cardstock is never worn out on me. I mean, sure, I haven't played as much as some people who play like, I don't know, thousands and thousands of times. Sure.
Yeah.
And I do have wear on my cards. But they also sell like alternate art for base cards in case they're getting worn out by shuffling, but also if you just want alternate art for the base cards.
Yeah.
Like, that's cool. I like that. Personally, I mean, ease of play, I'll give Codenames, sure. Everything else, I gotta give to Dominion.
Okay. I don't disagree with you. And it's funny. You know what my biggest gripe about Codenames is?
Yeah.
It is built to be a party game, right? Everybody says it's a party game.
Yeah.
At its core, it's basically a team game. You got one clue giver, and then you have a group of people that are working together. You know where I like to play Codenames?
Not at a party.
Yes. I like to play it either 2 or 4. I don't like playing it anywhere else. If it's a 2-player game...
Specifically Codenames Duet.
Duet, yeah. It does that fantastically.
Mm-hmm.
And I prefer it at 4 because it's one clue giver and one person guessing, and you're playing in the team, in a sense. So one side of the table is giving clues, or the other side of the table is guessing the clues.
Yep.
Guessing what it is. Works well. When you get into the big groups where you hold the 6, 7, or maybe even uneven numbers, there means there's one person more on another team rather than... And so that bothers me a lot because it doesn't work like it says it should, because there's always... And I've seen it not often, but you see it a lot, especially like at conventions and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's one person that's going to try to take over the group.
Yes.
And point to where, no, I think it's this and I think it's this.
Right.
Or if you're playing with couples, they kind of know each other very well.
Right.
And so when they're giving clues and they're on the same team, it's going to be hard to play against them because they're synced.
Right.
And so it kind of takes you out of that grouping if you're playing on the other team, because it's like, well, how are we going to win if they're in each other's mind, that kind of thing.
Right.
So that's my gripe with Codenames. And as much as it's a fine game, I'm glad Dominion is moving on.
Well, I mean, it has the same thing like Dixit, right? It puts a really interesting restriction on how you can communicate an idea.
Yeah.
And it does it in a really creative way. It's the same idea with pictures, actually, because pictures you have like 6 different ways or something like that, or 5 different ways of giving that information. Like, I'm telling you to look at this card with these random grid of color cubes, right? Mm-hmm. Or sticks and stones, right? How am I trying to portray this card? And a lot of the games now, Spiel Des Jahres flip-flops on those pretty often. Just One is one of those. Codenames is one of those. Mm-hmm. Barbarossa is one of those. Like, how can I give this information without giving you the information?
Yeah.
And so, actually, now coming up to it with Dorf Romantic and the past few winners like Cascadia and Micro Macro and all those, they're coming up on... They probably need to come back to one of those party games again.
Yeah.
To really come in on it.
I can understand though why Fun Facts didn't win, because it was nominated I think the same year as Dorf Romantic.
No, it wasn't nominated. It was recommended.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
But I can understand because it's not really a game. It's more of an activity.
Mm-hmm.
It has some game-like quality, and I do like it. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you think Champions is going to get nominated?
No. Oh no. Not at all.
You don't?
I don't think it'll be nominated.
I really don't. Do you think it will get recommended at least?
Nope.
Not the Repos one?
Nope.
Interesting.
I really don't, because you're not trying to portray information. You're trying to argue a point.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with you.
It doesn't have that nuance. Like, So Clover, was recommended for a reason, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
it's how do I portray limited information in the most efficient, tactile way possible. Champions is not that, right? It is very much like, hey, I've made my prediction of what I think is going to win this. Now let me argue my way to victory. And while that is fun and awesome because I love that game, well, I haven't played Champions yet, but
you like
I've
Party
played
Playoff.
Party Playoff from Cranium, which is essentially the same idea. Like I know I'm gonna like it, but again, that's a very different game than this limited information.
Honestly, I was thinking it's kind of reminds me also of that little card game that you would. Yeah, I got my version in Loot Crate, Super Fight, where you're basically arguing your point.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
All right, so moving on, before we get into the semifinals, the 4 games eliminated, Cascadia was our highest vote getter at 29%. Azul was at 14%. El Grande sitting at a pretty 8%. And Codenames, it wasn't getting a lot of love either. It was at 5%. I think that was our least. Yep, Codenames was at the bottom of our thing. So we're kind of a mixed bag when we're agreeing with the audience too.
Right. And honestly, if Just One was replaced with Azul, I could leave this room and I was like, I'm cool with whatever you end up figuring out because I'm cool with any of it. And not to say I'm not okay with Just One. I don't think it's going to win the top 4, but
it's got a hard fight.
It's got a hard fight ahead of it. I'm just saying, like it that's the outlier of these 3 in my mind.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's get into the semifinals. Now we have Dominion versus Ticket to Ride. Let me reseed this correctly real quick. Right? Dominion versus Ticket to Ride.
Yeah, you have that wrong.
Yeah, I just kind of threw those up there, didn't I? All right, here we go. There we go. Let's put that there.
Sorry for our headphones listener, because he makes mistakes.
Yep.
He doesn't know how to seed brackets.
We reseeded after the.
We've
never had.
In his defense, the top 3 have never been eliminated.
No, they haven't. Okay. All right. First semifinals, we have Dominion versus Ticket to Ride. Our number 4 versus our number 8 seed. I'll be starting us off.
And you get Dominion.
All right. So, everything I said about Dominion. Dominion is one of the only 2 games that it can out-replay Ticket to Ride. And not only, like, taking expansions aside, yeah, you have some tickets, but they're all kind of the same idea for the tickets. You get to know exactly. Once you see your first tickets, you've seen the game. You know how it works. You know how it functions. It's easy to done. Dominion has 30 different kingdom cards in the base set. You use 10 of those. Minimum 3 different games completely before you start replaying any one of those cards in Dominion. Hands down, replay value goes to this. Not even a question. Art and production goes to Ticket to Ride because the pieces and components are absolutely stunning.
And the art is in Dominion.
In Dominion, the art is questionable at best. Okay.
In all honesty, the card stock in Dominion's really good.
It's fantastic.
I still love the card stock in Ticket to Ride too.
Although some editions of Dominion, and I don't mean to downplay it,
here we
have
go.
had slightly longer cards. Slightly.
Is that an expansion of Dominion or is that another game? Because I can't tell the way.
Oh no, permutation. Like how many different combinations? Like yeah. You have 30 different cards.
Because some of the names of the expansions. That's why I was like, wait.
No, it's like 30 factorial stop at 10 or something like that.
Yeah,
like,
no.
Like that's how many. It's 30 times 29 times 28. Like that's how many different.
I get that
in the base box.
But I'm saying. The way they named the expansions, I was like, wait, okay, does he mean the term, or is it a game, or is it...
It could have been an expansion. Meaningful choice is Dominion, hands down. Like, that engine, it's a brilliant engine that builds up, where in Ticket to Ride, you don't get a... you're beholden to what cards come up, and sometimes you're like, oh, blues is never coming up. I gotta go wilds and gotta go locomotives or pulling off the top or hoping for the best.
Trust me, that happened to me in our legacy game.
Right, and it will happen. And sometimes you'll just lost because
because
everybody else just got what they needed before you got what you needed, and that's
or
it is what it is.
It's gonna flip up. Say like I take my turn, I take my 2 cards, and it's gonna flip up when, let's say, Angel, who usually sits across from me, his card comes up, and then it flips up, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna take this, which is the card I'm looking for. Say it's a black card. And then another one flips up, and he's going to take, okay, I'm going to take a blue card now. And so I'm sitting there looking at that black card, like in my mind. I'm not letting other people know that's what I'm looking at. And I see what it comes up, and I'm looking at other things there. And next thing you know, someone else takes that black card, and then they flip up.
Yep.
And it keeps going that way. And when it comes to my turn, all the black cards, let's say 3 of them showed up. All of them are gone that I've been waiting for. And now I'm sitting there thinking,
well, but there they went.
There they went. I'm like, I guess I'm going to pick up this locomotive over here.
Right.
Or my favorite thing, I saw it just recently in a game that we played in Ticket to Ride. Mm-hmm. When you're like, okay, I guess I'll take one of the locomotives when it comes to my turn, and the third freaking locomotive comes up and wipes the board. Right. It's like, well, never mind.
Exactly. Game immersion is the one that I would find tricky. However, I'm going to go to ease of play. That's Ticket to Ride.
Oh yeah, hands down.
Brilliantly. But game immersion, so that's tricky, right? Dominion has what my favorite part of Dominion is there's a very small nuance, and it's something that you have to calibrate to learn when to do it, and that's when you stop building your engine and you start flipping for points, and that is a huge decision space. Like it's almost as big but less punishing than like Northwest Passage when we played it a few weeks ago. Like one of our friends just got locked out of it because he just made that bad choice, right? And in Dominion,
if he listens to this podcast, he's going to be cussing us out. You're going to hear it.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry that happened.
You keep bringing it up to him.
And in Dominion, it has kind of that same feel. It's like, at what point do I stop building this engine? Have I built up what I need to start getting points, and it won't slow me down before the end of the game? Mm. That timing is such a big, massive, critical moment that determines a winner of a game in Dominion, in my eyes. So that's why that part, I think, is more fun to lose, because I love that timing. I love that push and pull. It's like the internal conflict for me. Whereas the reason why Ticket to Ride is not as fun to lose on that aspect is the fact that you said it alone. It's like, I just got the blue card, and you took that route that I was going for. Okay, that's fine. I can go for that one. Oh, you just took that route. Okay. No, that's fine. I can go through Winnipeg. All right, that's cool. Oh, no, you just... Okay, never mind. And that sucks when it happens so hard on you, right? And you can't... That doesn't really happen in Dominion. Yeah, there's attack cards, but there's either ways to mitigate it, or they're, like... Even though that they're hurting you, they're not so much benefiting themselves always, right? Those attack cards are more just like, ooh, that hurts me, but doesn't help you as much. There's a little bit of benefit, like the Witch, I think, gives you like 2 more gold or something like that. Stuff like that. So, personally, I think game immersion would actually go to Dominion over Ticket to Ride, but not because of the theme. It's a super dry theme. But so I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are. I'm a 50-50, honestly.
Honestly, I don't disagree with you on a lot of the points. I think Ticket to Ride wins ease of play, hands down, and it wins art production, hands down. Replay value, I do think, goes to Dominion, and meaningful choice goes to Dominion. Though there is some decent meaningful choice in
absolutely.
Ticket to Ride. There is
absolutely. There's a lot.
I just think it's a lot more... Best way I could describe it is that the meaningful choice weighs a lot heavier in Dominion because of the choices you make. In it, a lot of part of it is the AP or the arbitrary choices can make an impact, and like we were talking about, way the card flips, that weighs a lot on Ticket to Ride. Mm-hmm. But the depth of strategy, tactics, or skills, there is a lot of depth in both of these games. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to impacting other players' strategies, it's just like when you decide to make the decision to stop your engine building and go into your points. Or the other impact for me in Ticket to Ride 2, though, and so this is for me where it's like that hard. Like, I think Dominion does a really good choice, a lot of stuff. It's like, but the impacting other players' strategy, I don't know what other people's routes are, but if someone claims a route that impacts my strategy. Now do I need to go into these other routes over here to try to make sure I make my connections? Because I just picked up this 9-point card that if I don't get connected by these 2 more routes I got to hit, now I got to add a 3rd route because I just got blocked off. That's negative 9 points for me at the end of the game.
Right.
That has a lot of impact on other players' strategy. So that's where I him and haw, but I think the other part of it too is like the depth of strategy, tactics, or skill. You have to be much more of a smart player in in Dominion. So I think Dominion ekes out meaningful choice for me, and it goes down to game immersion as well. And honestly, I'm in a different mindset to you. I think we may have to go into the tiebreaker because Dominion, it's fine. I don't mind losing a Dominion, but it doesn't give me any thematic sense per se, more than say Ticket to Ride. I'm like, especially I shouldn't bring this in, but the thematicnism that comes out of the legacy version of the game, Dominion needs to get a legacy version just to see. Let Rob Daviau get into Dominion, see how that goes.
Right.
But he's already touched all these other classic ones. Why not Carcassonne and Dominion? Rob Daviau, get on those two.
Right.
But anyways, as I was saying, Ticket to Ride it has a lot more fun. Like I've only played like 2 games of Dominion, and I never go, man, what could I have done better? Because I think I've done okay. When I went to the Thief, I'm like, yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm still getting my points. I'm taking things away from you. I'm just getting throttled. It wasn't really fun on that aspect, even though it was a bit thematic when I'm playing with a Thief card. Also, Ticket to Ride, I'm like, you know what? I could have done this better, or I could have gone this route, or you know what? I should have done this. And I'm always thinking about it, so I like that aspect. It makes me rethink, and that for me, sometimes that goes into the game immersion. It is fun to lose because I'm thinking about like what I could have done better. It also leads to those memorable moments aspect of it, where like, what could I have done better? Or if I did this one. Or one of my favorite memories, the first time I ever played Ticket to Ride with Gamehead Geek against my wife. Him and me are fighting because our tickets are basically along the same lines. Right. Him and me have to go north and south, and we're fighting over the same routes, where my wife has to go east-west. And so the whole time, him and me are fighting over these 2 routes, and then the other player and my wife are doing their own thing.
Right.
And my wife just goes ahead. She has to go to New York to Los Angeles to Miami. But she also has a ticket that connects to New York. So she just went the long route around, went through Canada, looped all the way down to Miami. So she did not go anywhere in the central United States. She went up and around and down. Got the longest train route, too. That is one of the memories that has burned in my thing. And that's why we always joke, like, don't play Ticket to Ride with my wife. She'll kick your butt. Because not only did she connect Los Angeles to New York, she connected Los Angeles to frickin' Miami by way of Canada.
Yep.
And so, by Canada and the Eastern Seaboard. So she took the Western Seaboard, the Canada, and the Eastern Seaboard. And so that's one of the things that just sticks in my mind. And you see it sometimes in when I play with other people. Out of the 2 games, I've played Ticket to Ride a whole bunch more than Dominion. And you see it all the time where I played with couples, and they're like, why would you go there? And so, you like I said, it's a game that can cause divorce, just as a joke, because you see it all the time. It's not meant to attack, but the way your tickets lie, it's going to happen.
Sure.
And so it leads to that player interaction, those table talk. When we've played Dominion, we're not really talking other than like, hey, I'm going to steal a card from you type thing.
No, but, and I do want to add, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
There is one more thing that your example of like the going up through Canada to get to Miami, which is always fun. It did remind me of like one of the charms of Dominion is the fact that you can build up those combo-tastic turns, and everyone almost always has one turn where it's just absolutely just like, I just played half of my deck of cards.
Yeah.
Like, I played 30 cards back to back. I went village, village, market, village, market, village, smithy, market, village, village, market, you know, and you pull this turn where you're like, I just played half of my deck and I have like 7 gold and now I can't even buy a province, right? Or like some like just dramatic thing. It's like I have like 30 gold and 1 buy. Guess I'll get a province, right? And, and it's just like, and it has one of those like really fun and clever moments. That's why I'm like, I'm okay with going to tiebreaker with this, because as much as like they each have those like cool moments amongst them, I agree that Dominion, it's not that Dominion is fun to lose, it's just that it hurts less to lose really badly in Dominion versus losing really badly in Ticket to Ride. I feel hurts a lot more.
No,
but
I lose bad all the time in Ticket to Ride.
Well, that's because you play with your wife. That's the problem. But what I'm saying though is that let's take it to tiebreakers.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Like I said, I think we're not going to budge on this. Both of us find reasons why we think the other is immersive. That is fine. That's why we do these tiebreakers. So this is very important for our folks over here.
Very calmly, but
once,
I agree with you with your experiences, and I think you agree with me with mine. It's like, how can you compare? Personal experiences, right?
All right. So Dominion is sitting at 23%.
Okay.
That's the first one we see here.
Okay.
So moving on down, Ticket to Ride is sitting at a measly 6%.
Just barely over. So Dominion moves on.
All right.
There we go.
Honestly, I'm trying to be as fair as possible on this one, and take my bias out of it.
Right.
This is your thing. You're big on the Spiel Des Jahres. Yeah. I'm more of a Kenner guy. I agree with the Luminous. I like the more crunchy games. A lot of these ones. But the top 8 games that we've gotten on this list, I think 2 of them I'm okay with. Mm-hmm. I like Dominion. The Dominion is probably my 7th on this list, so I'm fine with Dominion. I'd rather have Dominion than Codenames in the top 2, so I'm okay with this.
Yeah, it's fine. We'll see. I mean, it's realistic, right?
Yeah.
Now we have Just One versus Carcassonne. Here we go. You're starting us off.
And I get just one, so you're happy.
I'm kind of surprised, to be honest, because that's not normally how it
That's not how this pulls,
no, not normally.
All right, so for me, I think Just One should move on, but that's because of my personal taste.
Yes.
I'm going to take my bias out of here, and I'm going to break it down for everybody. Ease of play, for me, is Just One. It's a very simple game. You're giving clues. You're basically playing 20 questions without the questions. Mm-hmm. Is it likelihood to get to the table? Maybe. It just depends. Sure. Like, if I'm playing against a group of people who are not board gamers, yes. If I'm playing against maybe board gamers, a group in a board gaming aspect, maybe not so much, just because Carcassonne's more familiar, or it's not really a party game, and maybe the board gamers want something a little bit more crunchy. But if I'm pulling out a game, going over to a family dinner function or something like that, I'm going to take Just One over Carcassonne. And that's not saying Carcassonne is a hard game. It is, you pull a tile, you place a tile, you put a meeple if you have them. Mm-hmm. That's pretty much it. If you complete something and your meeple's there, you score your points. That's about it. My thing is with Carcassonne, as simple as it is, the scoring can be a little bit tricky depending on how things score, when they score, and that kind of thing. Luminous, don't get him on that. No. So,
good person.
That's right. And Luminous is mentioning matches, but I think Ease of Play for me is Just One, because it's a much easier game in a sense.
Just to make the debate easier, I 100% agree with you.
The replay value, hands down, is Carcassonne.
Yep.
Even anything like the length of time and scaling well, I think that is Just One. Anything else is quite different. The minimum number of plays for the full experience, plus the expansions in Carcassonne alone. There's one expansion in Just One. Just one. And it's not in America. It's only in German. I want them to bring that over.
And they're never going to make more than that. You know why?
Because it's just
one.
I know where you're going with that joke.
I appreciate it.
Meaningful choice, honestly, I think goes to Carcassonne, as much as there is actually a very good strategy in Just One, because you can't really communicate when you're giving the clues. And so you're sitting there looking around the table like, are they going to go easy, or should I go, outside the box but still within the realm of things? So like, one of my favorite clues I've ever given in Just One is someone had The Mummy, and my clue was Karloff, because Boris Karloff played the Mummy in the classic Mummy films.
Yeah.
And so, and it was around Halloween, so people were talking about it and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. It was so obscure for the group that I was playing with that people were like, why would you put Karloff? The only person that got it was my wife, because she watches it with me every year.
Yep.
Unfortunately, she wasn't the one that had to guess.
Yep.
And so, but there is that good impact of meaningful strategy in Just One. I just don't think it's going to beat Carcassonne when it comes to that. Now, when it comes to game immersion, I think this is Just One, hands down. It is much more fun to lose. It's much more immersive. There's a lot more player talk. If you play with people who've played Carcassonne a lot, it's mostly, okay, I'm done, your turn. It can be very, very quiet. When we were playing this online, because we were backed off, the only time we were talking to each other is when we were blocking each other off. That was about it. Other than that, it was probably one of the quietest Discord call I've ever been in game immersion. So I think game immersion for me goes to Just One. Now, art and production, there is no art in Just One.
Sure.
The graphic design is great in both these games. The pieces and components are great in these games. I just think Carcassonne does it slightly better. For me, when I break this down, I think Carcassonne moves on.
Yeah. So, I will argue for Carcassonne. I agree with you almost entirely. 100% agree with you. There's one big knock that I have for Just One.
Just one?
Just one. Just one big knock that Carcassonne does not do. You ready for it?
Uh-huh.
Just One has some thin cardstock. And if you are in a well-lit room and you have it up on the stand where everyone can see it, if that light is hitting it right, you can see through the card.
I've actually never noticed that, but honestly, yes. I don't have, like, most of my stuff is overhead. All the lighting I play my games is overhead, so it doesn't really hit it for me like on that.
Yep. And that is really not okay for a game that you need to not see the words. They needed to jump that cardstock just a little bit more. That is one of the worst things. Like, because now that I've noticed that, and I apologize now that you're probably going to notice it, it probably won't matter in your group, actually. But when you notice that, when you're playing in a setting like that, I always pick a 4 or 5. Because it's like, I want one of the words that's not there. But then again, like, I shouldn't have to do that. And
which is weird, because you know how I always play Just One? I always play with my eyes closed when I'm the clue getter.
Oh, okay, sure. Yeah.
It's just, I think it's because when I played a lot of Just One, it's something I would have to do because we were playing over webcam, so I'd have to turn and like have my eyes closed and look at the wall or something like that. So that's what I just ingrained into me when we're playing Just One, so I just do that because it is a fantastic remote game.
It's a great game. Yeah, it's phenomenal. That cardstock is too thin. And because of that alone, the piece of components are just down. It doesn't need graphic design. It doesn't need art. That's not the point of it, right? And I always forgive games when that's not the necessary need. But the art on Carcassonne works fine. Mm-hmm. The graphic design is very clear, you know.
And I will say this.
You know what's the town, you know what's the roads.
The copies of Carcassonne that you can get now, the newer ones, the art is fantastic.
Yeah, the art is actually quite good. Yeah. Has like little Easter eggs and stuff throughout it, like, you know, little nods to different stuff. Very good. Very clear. You're going to know what's involved. But the piece of components, those chunky tiles, they feel good. They really do.
Meeple.
They invented the meeple.
You even have a cat named Meeple. That's how much you like Carcassonne. You named your cat.
No, hold on, sir. Do not start that rumor. You are not, sir. That's it. I'm out. No. My wife named it Meeple.
I have to get something contentious in this episode. We've been very Care Bear.
We have. We've agreed on a lot. But I do not own a cat. My wife owns 2 cats, and she...
Therefore, you own 2 cats.
She named it Meeple in attempts for me to enjoy it more, which has enraged me further. Anyway. Doesn't matter. What I'm saying, though, I would rather name my son Meeple than I would... Because that would make more sense thematically. It's a mini people. It's a mini me. Anyway. No, yeah, I agree. Ease of play and game immersion, I'll give to Just One. The rest, replay value, meaningful choice, art and production, all Carcassonne. I think Carcassonne moves on.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you at all. I love both of these games to an extent. Honestly, I love the co-op Carcassonne, the Mists over Carcassonne. I find it fantastic that they took a game that's many years very competitive game and put a really good co-op. I'm usually not a big fan of putting competitive games and making it into a co-op. They did a fantastic job.
And on top of that, the part that I was nervous about the co-op version of it was just like, oh, score X number of points to win, Or, hey, do it with this many tiles, but then score X number of points to win. Or try to beat your last score. No, that's not co-op. It's just, you're playing it by yourself. That's all you're doing. What you really needed to do was add in that other variable, like the ghosts in Mr. Carcassonne. It's like, oh, those are things that come out that are bad.
Yeah.
That 100% worked.
Another thing what I like about what they did in that one, too, is it expands. So when you play the first scenario, it's just teaching you the game. Kind of like Jaws of the Lion for Gloomhaven. You got this, and then, oh, now you're going to add this, and then you're going to add this. And then, you know what? You don't like the co-op? Fine. This is just another expansion that you can add into Carcassonne.
Right.
Fantastic.
Yep. Great idea. So now, just one. Headphone listeners, cover your ears. My apologies. I got to do that again real quick. There we go. We have Dominion versus Carcassonne. It is down to the wire.
And it's your some of your favorite games. So.
I think actually, I think Dominion is the highest ranked outside of Carcassonne on my top 100.
All right, so moving on before we get into the finals where we get Dominion versus Carcassonne, it is Ticket to Ride, which was eliminated by Dominion at 6% of the vote.
Mm-hmm.
Carcassonne just eliminated just one, which was our 6th seed. And Ticket to Ride was our 8th seed, so that's kind of interesting to me, that fact that Ticket to Ride was 8th seed.
Mm-hmm.
Just one beat Ticket to Ride on the votes at 7% of the vote.
Yep.
So, yeah, it shows that right now a lot of people are more into like the Cult of the New aspect because Cascadia was our best vote getter outside of Dominion, which is shocking to me.
Yep.
We already know what Dominion's vote total is because we had to do a tiebreaker.
Right. That's right, and it gets a lot of love and a lot of support. So, all right, now this last round, we are not flipping the coin of doom or pulling random. We are just going to take our bias. We're going to take our debate sides. We already made our arguments for both these games. This final, we're going to break it down piece by piece. Daniel, is there anything that is immediately obvious to you?
2 things are obvious to me. Replay value is Carcassonne.
Yes.
And art production is Carcassonne.
Yes. I agree. I agree 100% with that. So now, ease of play. Oh man, honestly, I want to make this more of a debate.
I was sitting there like,
game immersion. Let's go with game immersion. Well, you're both building a domain. Hold on. Which one feels more like you're building a domain? This might be a clean sweep, honestly.
Okay, simplicity and familiarity in the mechanism. I think that is Dominion. People know deck builders. Even more modern board gamers will know a deck builder before a tile laying game in a sense, because a lot of people are coming over from actual building decks in Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic the Gathering and that sort of stuff.
On that mechanism, I'm going to disagree with you, because only if you understand deck building and you're already in the hobby will you understand deck building. Mm-hmm. That has to be an introduction. Everyone already knows the pattern matching with dominoes, right? Dominoes is literally like Carcassonne with a square tile. Like, everyone understands, hey, this is a green shape. Put it next to the green shape, right?
Sorry, I just, outside of that, okay. Likelihood to get to the table based on the mechanism or theme.
Neither.
Here's the thing that makes me laugh. I'm like, medieval or medieval? Which one?
Wait, in this game you're building up your domain. Which one did I describe? That's for you to find out. I talked about both of them. Yeah, you're building a domain of buildings and townships. Yeah, I don't think that either of them. Although okay, so likelihood to get to the table. You know what? Which one I think it would be? Carcassonne, and hear me out. Why? Carcassonne's a $30 retail versus a $35 retail versus a $50 retail for Dominion, and Dominion is a box of cards.
And you know what else is going to make it easier for me to say Carcassonne on this one? Exactly what you were saying. If you can find the big box, you could find everything for Carcassonne for roughly $80. If you want everything, if you find the big box. I've seen it for $80.
No, I'm going to correct you. It's not everything for Carcassonne.
As of now.
It's a handful of... No, it's only just a handful of expansions.
Oh, really? I thought
They've
it was
never
everything.
made an everything.
Oh.
No. They've made one with, like, two big expansions, and then all the mini expansions. They've made one with like a handful of mini expansions and like 3 or 4 big expansions. They've never made one with all 10 expansions ever.
Well, it's still going to cost you less to get all the Carcassonne stuff than it is the Dominion stuff.
Yes,
because
that's
the
correct.
Expansions cost almost as much as the base game.
Yes, that is very correct. Yes.
So cost effective, it's much easier to get
significantly
Carcassonne.
Yes.
All right, so you're saying Carcassonne needs to play?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I agree with you, and that's 3-0. So
yeah.
Carcassonne is our winner.
Let's just break it down real quick. I think meaningful choice actually is because of the random of the draw. Is also Carcassonne, and like you have a little bit of like hubbub. With,
and it's not just the randomness of the draw too, like based on your draws. Yeah, I mean you get random draw in Carcassonne just because you're pulling off the stack and then you play a tile.
Sure, but there's ways to
mitigate it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are kind of ways you can mitigate it too, based on if you build your deck with a lot of like, oh, I'm going to draw this or I can draw this. That's fine. Impacting other player strategy. You're not really going to impact other people's engines in Carcassonne unless you're playing with a certain set of cards or certain things of the cards.
Dominion, right.
Well, Dominion, yeah. In Carcassonne, you are impacting other player strategy if you jump onto their castle by somehow being able to get it connected.
Manipulate that situation, yeah.
Or jumping onto roads if somehow you can merge the 2 different roads into one road. Or the farmland type situation too. Like newer games, it's more of a variant now, but like if you're originally playing Carcassonne, which is when it won the Spiel, when you decide to put your farmer down, you are going to impact someone's strategy no matter what you're doing in Carcassonne compared to something like Dominion.
Absolutely.
Where if you're not playing with the cards that have you interact with another person, then you're not really impacting their strategy.
Yeah.
Depth of strategy, tactic, or skill. You have to be much more tactical when you're playing Carcassonne. Now, don't get me wrong. Dominion, there is a lot of depth.
Sure.
How you build your deck is very important.
Right, but that's if you pull off the correct timing. I could load my deck full of moats to mitigate your attacks, but if I never draw it when you have an attack, out of luck.
So I don't disagree with you. I think Carcassonne wins meaningful choice too. Now, going into game immersion, which game is more fun to lose? For me, it's Carcassonne.
I wouldn't be able to. I think probably Dominion, honestly, just because of that.
You just don't want it to be a clean sweep.
No, not necessarily. I do think Dominion is more fun to lose because, like, you could just sit there and when you get those satisfying turns, you don't get that in Carcassonne, and I think that's a little more fun.
Yeah,
you feel more clever.
I like what Carcassonne
pillage, as Illumina says. Yeah.
All right, so player interaction, which leads to more table talk and role playing. I think it's Carcassonne more so than Dominion. And memorable moments. Go ahead.
I'm not okay with the fact that you sold your game. I mean, you act like that's some kind of personal victory for me. No, I'm deeply saddened by it.
I'm not talking about that, but I'm just saying, like, which one gives you more memorable moments?
I mean, Carcassonne, of course.
Yeah.
When somebody spent like 6 turns building up this massive town and you put 1 tile down to wiggle into it, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Except for when you basically king make someone else because you've been ignoring him the other side of the board.
And yet we're still talking about it today. See? Memorable.
Alright. So, here's the thing that
I still stand by my defense. You just had the situations that I could have piggybacked on easiest.
No, you didn't. I didn't.
You really did at that opportunity. The tiles I pulled.
Your tiles would have worked well.
I'm trying to make this calm. We've had a good, friendly discussion. I'm just saying, like, I wasn't picking on you because you're you, and I was not. It was just that situation.
You were picking on me
that has the
because
best
you weren't paying attention to someone else.
No. That's not true, though.
It is true.
And I'm sorry you sold your game because of it.
All right, so as I was trying to say before someone interrupted me so rudely after screwing me over in Carcassonne.
That was like 2 years ago. Let it go, bro.
It was 4 years ago. It was 2020.
Oh, my goodness.
So, anyways, as I was trying to say, there was a lot of first in this episode.
Yeah.
First off, the first time ever, the top 3 games were eliminated in the first round. We came so close to actually having the top 4 games being eliminated in the first round. Because it was very close between Codenames and Dominion. Mm-hmm. Second thing that has been very interesting in this aspect of our top 8 debates, the 7th seed actually won the top 8 debate. We've had an 8 seed I don't remember the last time we've had a 7 seed go all the way through. And another first. This is the first time we've ever had a 4 and 7 matchup. So this has been a very interesting top 8 debate. There has been some fantastic games. And finally, Dominion, as we mentioned earlier, had 23% of the vote. It got eliminated by a clean sweep, which is another first in our top 8 debates.
Mm-hmm.
There has never been another clean sweep. Carcassonne only had 8% of the vote. So if it
I think there has been not in the final.
No. In the final is the first. There has been a clean sweep, I think, in the quarterfinals. It hasn't been in the semifinals, and it has not been in the finals. So this is another first.
And you know this will never happen again. You know why? Just one. Just one. Anyway, we hope you've enjoyed this episode. This is ridiculous. Congratulations to Rio Grande Games, or now Z-Man Games, who prints Carcassonne in the United States. Hans im Glück, who prints it in Germany. Klaus-Jürgen Werder, who designed the game.
To you, your favorite game of all time?
My favorite game of all time, and I really tried my best to take my bias out of it.
No, I don't disagree.
And I don't think I put that in there, but know that this is my number 1 game of all time. I love Kark. And
hopefully, since it's now eligible to get into the finals again, we can finally stop talking about this stupid game.
It might. It's a powerhouse of a game.
Here's the thing, like every time it gets into the Champions of Champions edition, it moves and moves, but it never gets into the final because I think it didn't make it to the final. It lost to Return to Dark Tower or one of the other games in that one. Which immediately went in. It lost to Gloomhaven, which it didn't even make it into the finals because I think it was Pandemic.
Yeah.
And I think this year Pandemic moved on, finally got ascended.
Like that, yeah.
So it's been pretty much in the finals every year. It's the Susan Lucci of our. She always got nominated for Emmys, never won an Emmy.
Oh, okay. I was like, sports? I don't know.
No.
Okay.
She always it's always the runner-up. It's never the.
She is the Creedence Clearwater revival, or he is the. This game is the. Whatever. CCR.
Carcassonne.
Board games.
Is the always a bridesmaid, never a bride.
Yeah, that's what you get for being a tile layer. Let me tell you. Okay, let's just end this episode. This is getting loopy. We hope you've enjoyed our episode today. If you ever want to contact us directly, whether the Leonardo DiCaprio.
He's won finally.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
No, then he's not eligible to be a board game. If you enjoyed this episode, please email us directly, whether that's to give us ideas for future episodes, just to contact us to say hello, or enter in future contests. Email us at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com. Also, we have an Instagram.com/everydayboardgames, where you can see what we've been playing lately.
As well as all video re-uploads are found on YouTube under youtube.com/@everydayboardgames. If you like what we do, there are 3 things you can do to help us grow on the platform. Subscribe if you're not, like the video, and comment down below and tell us your thoughts on the subject.
And if you ever want to join us live, like our friends Illuminous and Creative Chaos and anybody else who joined us today, and join in on the discussions while we are ranting and raving about shenanigans, we stream live every one of our episodes, twitch.tv/everydayboardgames, and make sure you follow us so you can get notified when we go on live.
As well as all audio versions can be found on most podcast platforms under Everyday Board Games Podcast. This includes Spotify, Google, Amazon Music, Podbean, and Apple.
So we want to thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I've been your host, Daniel.
And I've been your host, Daniel.
And we want to thank you for listening to Everyday Board Games.
And remember, every day is a good day for board gaming.